Moonlight bathed the ruined city as two forces collided with unrelenting fury. Shattered stone erupted beneath their feet, the air torn apart by the impact of blows exchanged at deadly speed. Gongyuk, relentless in his assault, matched the demon's strikes with precision. Their battle tore across the battlefield until the force of a final clash sent both hurtling through the air. Blood splattered across the concrete as Gongyuk struck the ground hard. Hovering above, the red-haired demon sneered, convinced the fight had ended. Declaring his victory, he moved in for the final blow, but as he lunged forward to claim Gongyuk, a trap was sprung. The battlefield trembled as an explosive blast consumed the space, engulfing the demon in a violent burst of energy. The aftermath left only silence and scattered debris. From the shadows, a golden light emerged. A young girl stepped forward, holding the last remnant of hope in her hands. The demon noticed her, mocking her resolve in Gongyuk's absence. He underestimated her power, calling her effort meaningless. However, the girl acted swiftly. She activated a divine spell, cloaking herself in light. At that moment, Gongyuk reappeared behind the demon and drove a blade deep into his back. A surge of divine power erupted around Gongyuk as the spell Avatar Zeus was activated. Lightning coiled through the air, illuminating his figure with overwhelming might. Bathed in divine energy, he stood defiant before the demon lord. Rage flashed across the demon's face, unable to accept that a mere human could challenge him so completely. Gongyuk met the insult with a smirk, calmly reminding him this was not their first encounter, and that he had already been defeated 6 times before. Lightning arced downward, striking with devastating force. The chains tightened around the demon's form, sending shock waves across the battlefield. Gongyuk pressed forward, drawing blood with precise attacks. However, the battle was not without consequence. He faltered for a moment, his chest marked with blood as pain began to settle in. Despite this, his will remained unbroken. From a distance, his companions watched, their faces twisted with grief and doubt. Questions hung heavy in the air. Why had he not protected them? Why had he chosen to fight alone? The guilt mounted with every gaze. Memories of past regressions surfaced, 13 attempts, each ending in failure. Even when the demon lord fell, ruin followed. Conflict, betrayal, and madness had consumed those meant to save the world. The weight of countless regrets shaped Gongyuk's decision. With cold clarity, he accepted that mercy no longer had a place. Gripping his weapon tightly, he declared his intent. Not only would the demon lord fall, but so too would the hunters and companions, who once shared his path but later betrayed the world. He would eliminate them all, every last one. But before he could act further, a violent strike tore across the battlefield. The demon lord, still brimming with power, retaliated with vicious precision. Gongyuk barely reacted in time, eyes widening as blood splashed through the air. Rage surged in the demon's voice, mocking the notion that someone with Gongyuk's strength could ever hope to win. Their battle reignited with brutal force, blades clashed, and shockwaves ripped through the ground. Gongyuk's focus sharpened. He dodged, countered, and pressed on through the chaos. Despite the overwhelming odds, still, the demon lord's strikes landed. Gongyuk staggered under the relentless blows. The demon, now wielding a divine spear, declared the previous regression's failure had taught him everything he needed. He had even eliminated threats before the battle began. Despite his bloodied state, Gongyuk smirked. This wasn't arrogance, it was experience. He had beaten him 6 times. He would do it again. As the night sky cracked open, an overwhelming demonic presence spilled into the city. A monstrous entity emerged through a dimensional rift, surrounded by writhing shadows, and unleashed chaos on the world below. Civilians scattered as darkness consumed the skyline, while the earth itself shook under the invasion's weight. With a blinding burst, an apocalyptic beam surged from the heavens, marking the arrival of extinction-level beings. Cities crumbled, hope waned, monsters filled the streets, their eyes glowing with bloodlust as they tore through all resistance. Humanity, desperate and cornered, retaliated with firepower. Soldiers, positioned behind barricades, unleashed a barrage of bullets against the advancing creatures. Despite their coordination, the weapons barely pierced the thick hides of the invaders. Panic spread as their efforts proved futile. In the chaos, screams echoed louder than gunfire. Then came a shift when despair peaked. Individuals awakened to mysterious power. These chosen ones, called hunters, were suddenly imbued with strength, capable of challenging the monsters. Their presence became a turning point. Victories followed. Humanity regained ground, reclaiming dungeons at a steep cost, over 1 billion lives lost. But the celebration was short-lived. A cold message flash tutorial cleared. Confusion turned to dread. The real trial hadn't started yet. And above all, a divine figure appeared asking for help. The grand directive was issued. Humanity's only path forward would lead through the dungeon known as Babel. Step by step, the chosen hunters were to ascend its tower and defeat the demon lord awaiting at the summit. If they failed to clear Babel within 20 years, devastation would spread beyond humanity, wiping out the very dimension they inhabited. However, within this terrifying mandate, a thread of hope remained. Inside Babel, hunters could grow endlessly stronger. The angels themselves pledged divine assistance, offering power from higher dimensional gods to ensure humanity would not face this fate alone. Soon after, reality struck violently. In the midst of their first trial, a massive beast charged from the shadows. Gongyuk and the others barely had time to react. Screams echoed as panic rippled through the group. Retreat turned into chaos. Gongyuk, dodging frantically, stumbled and was flung through the air by a monstrous strike. His body crashed and rolled, bruised but alive. As the creature closed in, someone shouted for him to stand. Clarity returned with a jolt. This scene was familiar. Gongyuk had experienced this moment before. The timeline looped, yet again. Gritting his teeth, he stood, knowing this was his 13th regression. He had failed 12 times. This time he wouldn't with. The group barely regrouped. Gongyuk calmly stepped away from the others. While chaos still lingered, his demeanor was strikingly unfazed. A second team arrived, breathless and behind schedule, only to be met by confusion as Gongyuk lit a cigarette mid-battle. Among the newcomers stood a young woman whose expression shifted the moment she saw him. Recognition dawned. She called out Yahello, age 19, her voice trembling. Identified him as her brother. Gongyuk, unaffected, smoked casually, muttering that nothing soothed him quite like a smoke after a regression. Before him, a digital interface flickered to life, listing the upcoming dungeon boss, a berserk minotaur, assessing the stats. He noted its E-rank classification, not impressive, but dangerous enough for rookies. Yahello tried to warn him of the surrounding threats, but he brushed it off, as others shouted at him to stop wasting time. Gongyuk remained composed. He promised to end the threat soon, asking for just 2 more minutes. With a smirk, he turned away and advanced alone toward the waiting beast. Warnings rang out behind him, but his focus remained sharp, unable to track its movement by sight. Gongyuk shifted tactics. He chose to fight with prediction, reading its patterns, not its speed. As the Minotaur lunged with lethal intent, Gongyuk remained focused. Reading the beast's motion, he seized the opening and launched a decisive counterattack. Blood splattered as his blade carved deep into its chest. Rather than retreat, he pressed forward, calculating every move with ruthless efficiency. The monster, staggered and enraged, tried to retaliate with brute force. Gongyuk, already anticipating the swing, dodged and prepared his next strike. This was no desperate fight, it was a methodical execution born from countless failures. Gongyuk stood over the fallen beast, his suit stained with blood, shoulders rising with each breath. The battle had left him wounded, but not defeated. Just as he relaxed, the berserk minotaur, seemingly lifeless, lunged up, its crimson eyes glowing with fury. It grabbed him by the arm, catching him off guard. The others, shocked by the sudden motion, cried out, realizing the monster still clung to life. Despite his injuries, Gongyuk wrestled the beast, pushing through the pain. The minotaur roared, but he struck back with unrelenting blows. Even weakened, his attacks held precision. He slammed it down, hacking away until its body stopped moving. Finally, the dungeon confirmed the kill. A hologram displayed his achievement. He had dealt the final blow. Coins, titles, and a powerful skill dropped, all rewards of his hard-fought victory. But his body was at its limit. Collapsing beside the monster's corpse, Gongyuk winced. His knee had taken serious damage beyond the reach of normal healing magic. He lay exhausted, regretting his recklessness. Help arrived just in time. The red-haired girl rushed in, casting a healing spell. Light surrounded his injury, the magic flower blooming gently over his leg, beginning the process of restoration. As the healing spell took effect, Yahello knelt beside Gongyuk, pleading softly. Her voice trembled as she urged him not to push himself further. The thought of returning to the orphanage, with tragic news, weighed heavily on her heart. She clutched his hand, begging him to wake up. Moments later, Gongyuk stirred, teasing her for being more concerned about others than himself. Her relief was immediate. A brief flashback introduced Yahello's bond to him, not just a teammate, but someone who grew up with him in the same orphanage, carrying emotional ties deeper than most. Soon after, Park Wundae, the raid leader, stepped in. Calm and composed, he praised the party for a successful raid and instructed them to rest. With the battle done and the injured stabilized, attention turned to the reward distribution. As loot screens appeared, each member checked their spoils. Gongyuk glanced at his share coins, monster parts, and most importantly the coveted skill coin. he demanded his reward without hesitation. However, the tension flared. Another party member accused him of stealing the final blow and hoarding a rare item. Gangyuk, unfazed, dismissed the insult with sarcasm, triggering an angry reaction. Tempers rose until a firm voice demanded calm. The heated exchange came to a halt when Park Geun-dae activated his skill, Bronze Skin, halting the aggressive blow with a hardened arm. His calm demeanor returned as he confessed to briefly letting greed cloud his judgment. Despite Gangyuk's rightful claim, Yoon-dae had tried to keep the skill coin. Admitting fault, he handed the coin back without protest. Gangyuk accepted it in silence, walking off with Yeonsi behind them. Discontent brewed. Another team member couldn't believe Hyundai would give away something so valuable. His outburst escalated into a confrontation, but Hyundai remained composed, brushing it off with a smile. He claimed to be merely following the rules, not seeking praise or conflict. Still, criticism lingered. Park Sang-min, frustrated with Hyundai's leniency, warned that such passive leadership would lead to downfall. Despite the tension, Hyundai retained his cool masking strategy behind his polite exterior. Before the situation worsened, he turned the conversation with sharp authority. Away from the others, Gangyuk and Yeonsi talked quietly. She voiced concern over his condition and the possibility of being ostracized from future raids. Gangyuk, however, remained unfazed. He had no plans to remain among those who valued greed over loyalty. Their paths were already beginning to diverge. As the tension faded, Gangyuk reassured Yeonsi that the two of them alone were enough. Despite her concern, he remained calm, lighting a cigarette with practiced ease. His laid-back attitude contrasted sharply with her shock at discovering he smoked. She scolded him lightly, but he deflected with a teasing smile. His tone shifted unexpectedly. He spoke of resurrection and permanence, suggesting deeper emotions masked behind casual words. Yeonsi grew flustered by his sudden sentimentality. Then, without warning, a violent flashback surfaced. Amid ruins and corpses, a past life unfolded where she lay dying in his arms. The memory haunted him, as present and past blurred. A chilling thought crossed his mind in this timeline. He might have to kill her himself. Under the cover of night, chaos erupted inside the dormitory, as a group of students misused their powers for amusement, laughing wildly. They sent each other flying through the halls, ignoring the rules and the threat of punishment. Amid their reckless behavior, a strict upperclassman stormed in, furious at the display. Her attempt to enforce order was met with mockery, prompting a chase through the corridor. The target, a bold and mischievous boy, sprinted toward a room marked with a name, Ganhyuk. Inside the quiet room, Ganhyuk sat alone, illuminated by a blue holographic interface. He reviewed his status. This was his 13th regression. Centuries had passed in attempts to save humanity, each cycle carving away at his spirit. The screen displayed the toll, a worn soul and diminished trust in the world. He acknowledged the weight of his exhaustion, questioning whether this run might finally be his last. Faced with limited choices, he activated the avatar system. The interface revealed potential paths, avatars, and the gamble of using coins to unlock them. Choosing Observer, he invested heavily. As the avatar leveled up rapidly, he contemplated the cost not just in currency, but in consequence. With synchronization unlocked, the final regression had begun. Ganjunik initiated the synchronization process with his avatar Observer. The entity began absorbing his data, scanning his history and experiences from countless regressions. As their connection deepened, a moment of recognition flashed within the avatar's memory. Echoes of his future self emerged. This link transcended data. It was memory transfer, binding their awareness. Realizing time was limited, Ganchuk accelerated the process. The avatar confirmed his latent potential and activated its core abilities. First came prediction, a function enabling complex foresight across all possible scenarios. As calculations completed, a second skill emerged, detection. This ability revealed hidden enemies scattered across the surrounding terrain, displayed as glowing red markers on a digital map, but the transformation had limits. The avatar reached its current awakening ceiling. 5 navy coins were required to unlock her final form. Satisfied with the progress, Ganchuk acknowledged the avatar's performance and dismissed her. Outside, shadows stirred. A group of students, armed and agitated, approached the building. They discovered Ganchuk had hoarded all the skill coins himself, fueling their resentment. One wielded a massive axe, furious and seeking retribution. Despite their caution, they doubted his strength until reminded he once single-handedly slew a minotaur. Now, caught off guard or not, they were heading into danger. Ganhyuk prepared for confrontation as his enemies lurked nearby. Confidently, he activated the predation function. Aware the Tower of Babel's next summoning loomed. To survive, He needed power great enough to dominate solo. He targeted avatars with healing skills and formidable traits, intending to absorb them. One opponent, driven by greed for a promotion, believed defeating Ganhyuk would elevate him to B rank. But arrogance led to disaster. Before the group could act, Ganhyuk launched a swift and brutal attack. One member fell instantly, caught off guard by the unexpected assault. Blood spilled as the knife found its mark, leaving the group stunned. Their formation broke, and panic followed. A more seasoned fighter stepped in, recognizing Ganhyuk from rumors. He engaged, calling him a thief, belittling his strength. But Ganhyuk countered decisively. Though regression reset his physical power, critical instincts endured precision, strategy, and adaptability, dodging attacks and striking at key openings. He used techniques honed across lifetimes. Enemies fell one by one under his calculated assault. His combat sense overwhelmed them. Even without brute strength, his mastery in real-time combat turned the battle in his favor. As fear spread among the survivors, one uttered the truth. They weren't fighting a student, they were facing a monster. As tension rose, one of the attackers stepped forward, requesting permission to engage. Without hesitation, he summoned his avatar Ungoliant, a monstrous entity that erupted from his back, shrieking with unnatural force. Its grotesque form loomed over the battlefield, signaling a shift in threat level. Ganhyuk, undeterred, immediately recognized the danger. This wasn't an ordinary avatar, it was something far worse. With the command to attack issued, the monstrous figure lunged, launching a fierce assault to overwhelm Ganhyuk in a single charge. A wave of monstrous energy erupted from the woman's side as she commanded her summoned beasts to attack. The battlefield trembled under their charge, but the blue-haired man remained unfazed. Calmly, he activated his ability Observer and triggered its secondary function, Prediction. A spectral figure manifested, scanning the enemy's movements and calculating every outcome in real time. With the analysis complete, his vision sharpened. The incoming strike, though, fast was predictable. As claws and energy beams tore through the air, he slipped past them with agile precision, his body dancing between the gaps of danger. Each motion flowed into the next, not from instinct, but from foresight. He wasn't reacting, he was acting before they could. The woman's confident expression cracked. Her attacks missed their mark entirely. As panic crept in, she tried to recover, but the man had already closed the distance. A clean strike tore through her defense. Blood scattered, and she crumpled under the sudden reversal. Her confusion deepened when she recognized him. The realization struck he wasn't supposed to be there, but he had arrived, not for her sake, but to finish what needed to be done. As another enemy charged, he turned, eyes sharp, blade ready. The tension rose as Ganhyuk confronted his enemies head-on, demanding the location of a hidden object. Holding up a small item, he tested their reaction. Their silence cracked, panic spreading, as they realized he was closing in on the truth. Recognizing the urgency, Ganhyuk assessed the battlefield. Magic interference tactics were failing ineffective against dungeon-class monsters. Without hesitation, he issued a retreat order as hostiles surged forward, eager to overwhelm. Amidst the chaos, Ganhyuk activated Master of all martial arts, enhancing his combat capabilities. He moved like a phantom, weaving through enemies, unleashing precise blows. Despite his prowess, blood trickled from a wound, a reminder of the risk he faced. He collapsed briefly, breath ragged, but rose once more, unwilling to fall. Nearby, a cloaked figure attempted to feign death. Ganhyuk saw through it immediately, and stomped down. Weapon ready, he demanded answers, accusing the man of betrayal. The enemy revealed to be Park Wunde, the bronze giant, resorted to activating his defensive ability, turning parts of his body to metal. Unshaken, Ganhyuk interrogated him about the betrayal in the dungeon. As fear set in, the man stuttered denials, but Ganhyuk had no doubts. He didn't need confessions, he wanted results, and a message sent. With his weapon trained steadily on Yunde's forehead, Ganhyuk made his stance clear: those who betrayed others for scraps would be met with ruin. His words weren't just a warning, they were a sentence. Yunde's confusion turned to dread, realizing the man before him wasn't bluffing. Ganhyuk didn't wait for excuses. A fierce strike followed, knocking the traitor aside and sending him tumbling across the ground. The scene turned brutal. Ganhyuk advanced without pause, each step deliberate. His eyes showed no hesitation, only purpose. As Yunde screamed and crawled away, Ganhyuk lit a cigarette with blood still fresh on his hands. The message was already written in blood and fire. Cowering, Yunde begged for mercy. Ganhyuk leaned in, demanding what he should tell. The organization behind it all. When the terrified man parroted back Ganhyuk's earlier threat, the response was simple: good memory. With that, Gongyuk dismissed him. Sparks erupted around the enemy as Gongyuk fired close to his face, forcing him to flee in terror. The battle concluded not with cheers, but silence. A system notification echoed in the air. Gongyuk had completed the soul duel and claimed a new title, Death's Edge Duelist. Smoke drifted upward as he stood alone, unwavering. Within the dim-lit orc dungeon, the ground was soaked in blood as bodies piled around Gongyuk. His movements were fluid, precise, and merciless. No orc stood a chance as he danced between corpses, swiftly executing every opponent in sight. One strike after another brought brutal ends, and his momentum never faltered. From the shadows, a surviving orc stumbled forward in panic. Dropping his weapon, he threw up his hands and begged for mercy, promising to abandon any hostility toward humans. Gongyuk observed the trembling creature and proposed a simple condition: answer a question correctly, and he'd be spared. Caught in fear, the orc nervously awaited the question only to hear a cryptic riddle. Unaware of the trap, the orc hesitated. Gongyuk didn't wait for a reply. He triggered a combat skill. One-hit kill, and with a single devastating blow, decapitated the orc. Coldly mocking his target's confusion, he delivered the punchline mid-slaughter. The dungeon system confirmed the orc warrior squad had been wiped out. As notification screens swarmed around him, a female companion questioned his ruthlessness. Gongyuk brushed off the concern, stating emotional detachment was inevitable. Soon after, he summoned an avatar, initiating forced awakening, and unlocked the observer's hidden ability, Mind's Eye. With the preparations complete, Gongyuk confirmed that all required items had been secured, ready to return. He motioned to leave the dungeon alongside his companion. However, the girl beside him interrupted the plan with a cryptic warning. Her words hinted that something unexpected was about to happen, halting their return to Saramu Academy. In that moment, a glowing red summoning circle formed beneath their feet. The girl stumbled, recognizing the ominous power. As the energy intensified, Gongyuk calmly acknowledged the phenomenon. This was the Tower of Babel's great summoning. Around them, countless others were caught in similar circles, dragged into the sudden magical event. The narration revealed the purpose of this ritual. The Demon King's tower forcibly selected awakened individuals during unpredictable intervals. These chosen were summoned into the tower to face impossible trials. Many had failed before. Now the seventh summoning had begun, gathering a new wave of potential heroes to oppose the Demon Kings. In a celestial realm, winged archangels observed the process. One, named Azazel, declared her intent to forge these humans into weapons. She would train them personally, yet the great archangel sensed something familiar and uncanny repetition. Meanwhile, amidst the light, Gongyuk and his sister were pulled into yet another cycle of fate. A twisted figure, radiating malice, declared his intent to slaughter everyone. His voice carried no hesitation, and the violet aura surrounding him crackled ominously. Nearby hunters tried to rally against him, dismissing his threat. They underestimated what he truly was. Suddenly, he unleashed a burst of dark energy, striking without warning. One of the hunters collapsed instantly, his life extinguished in an instant. Fear spread through the group as they realized the enemy was not human. Gongyuk, watching closely, recognized the danger. The attacker wasn't just another demon. He was one of the 4 heavenly kings, Kreesit, the second strongest in the demon army. His power surged with lightning, and his smile revealed nothing but bloodlust. A greater battle had just begun. As tension gripped the tower's chamber, a surge of violet lightning struck a man down, causing panic among the gathered survivors. He collapsed instantly, lifeless, scattering glowing coins across the floor. The crowd froze, confused, until someone examined a fallen coin and realized a grim system was at play. A voice confirmed the second rule on Babel Tower's first floor: any death results in a 20% loss of coins. Greed took over, and the fallen man's death became an opportunity. Chaos followed as survivors scrambled for the scattered coins. One man seized the chance to confront another, demanding what he held. But before more blood could be shed, a grinning overseer interrupted. The third rule was declared: no human may kill another within the first 2 weeks in the village zone. Any violation would be punished. With hostility held back by fear, the true cruelty of the system emerged. The orchestrator relished in how easily desperation bred betrayal. To escalate matters, a new service was introduced: a magical attack targeting the one with the most coins. A deadly wave of energy surged, but one man stood in its path. He withstood the blast, and a new rule followed: angels and demons cannot directly harm humans or manipulate their will. As the tension rose, a powerful angel descended, slicing through the sky with divine authority. She demanded that the system be enforced with precision and cruelty. Her arrival shocked the observers, revealing her identity as Azazel. The demon, amused yet irritated, stepped back and yielded control. With her presence, the final rule was declared. Demons and angels, though unable to harm humans, could grant quests and achievements. Each offered different rewards, and humans were free to choose between them. The message was clear: survival depended on how hard one struggled. The stronger a human became, the more power these entities could harvest. It was a system of mutual benefit fueled by desperation. As the crowd erupted in fear and questions, Azazel maintained control. Revival of the dead was impossible, and vital resources like food and dungeon knowledge would not be handed over freely. She urged calm, but panic spread rapidly. Meanwhile, the protagonist, unfazed, called his companion to leave. He dismissed the pleas for answers, noting that the angel could only provide quests. With clear intent, they moved on. Soon, they arrived at a goblin outpost. Without hesitation, the man launched an attack, effortlessly slaughtering the goblins. He was focused not on mercy, but on rapidly gathering points. As Gangyuk continued deeper into the goblin encampment, another wave of enemies rushed him with bloodlust. The goblins screamed for his death, certain that numbers would overwhelm him. But Gangyuk remained unfazed. With precision and power, he tore through them, his strikes leaving no room for defense. Their weapons shattered against his strength, and panic spread among them. A hidden bolt narrowly missed him, revealing a ranged attacker. Gangyuk spotted the crossbow user and charged without hesitation. In one swift motion, he closed the gap and eliminated the threat, his movements too fast for the goblins to process. Meanwhile, Yancy joined the battle, targeting a goblin and dispatching it cleanly. Gangyuk acknowledged her with a nod before returning to the slaughter. Their coordination was effortless. One goblin questioned if Gangyuk was even human as he decimated their numbers with terrifying ease. Eventually, Gangyuk's bat snapped in half from overuse, tossing it aside. He mocked the goblins for dying so slowly. Yancy, observing the aftermath, finally acknowledged his overwhelming strength, but to him, it was routine. Without wasting time, Gangyuk urged her to collect the loot. He explained that Babel's first floor housed 7 dungeons, and the sewer dungeon hid a secret zone known as Pezaron's Cradle. As Gangyuk pushed forward to reach the dungeon first, Yancy noticed something unusual in his demeanor. Doubt crept in as she confronted him. Her suspicion intensified when she recognized his weapon, one that belonged to her missing older brother. Amidst the quiet forest, the girl watched her companion with suspicion. Since the Minotaur dungeon, something in him had changed. Her brother, once timid and gentle, now bore a cruel edge in his demeanor. Though he still looked the same, his actions and instincts betrayed the man she once trusted. She confronted him, confused by how he maneuvered with foresight, as though he had already lived through each step, accusing him of being someone else. She demanded answers. In response, he recalled their childhood and the orphanage memories no stranger could fabricate. He spoke of their shared past and the bullying he endured because of her presence. Still, she refused to be swayed by sentiment alone. Then came his confession. In that cursed dungeon he had seen the future 20 years ahead. He described being summoned to Babel, his mind unraveling as memories piled from countless regressions. His shifting personality wasn't just trauma, but the toll of looping timelines and unnatural insight. He spoke of a scene, her death at the hands of a Minotaur. That was the first future he saw, and he had changed fate for one reason: to keep his promise. No matter what it cost him, he would protect her. After hearing the truth, Yancy rushed into her brother's arms, overcome with emotion. Her doubt dissolved in that moment of warmth and tears. She apologized, shaken by guilt, but he held her calmly, whispering that she was always too perceptive for her own good. 2 days later, they entered the sewer dungeon. The air was thick with stench and filth, and monstrous rat beasts attacked without hesitation. Yancy, though disgusted, fought skillfully together. They pushed deeper into the darkness. Guided by memory, the brother sensed the goal was near. As more creatures fell, he activated his ultimate skill, Mind's Eye. From within a glowing vision, an avatar emerged, revealing hidden truths. The statue he sought stood silently at the end of a forgotten path. He inserted 3 navy coins into a mysterious device embedded within it. With a hum of ancient magic, the cradle's first floor unlocked. Twin statues shifted apart, revealing a glowing chamber within. Light spilled across the worn stone floor, illuminating a sacred vault untouched by time. Yancy, trailing behind him, looked around in awe. A strange calm settled over her, and for the first time in a while, she quietly smiled. Perhaps it was because her brother was beside her. Inside the cradle, Gangyuk approached a glowing console. Having experienced countless anomalies in past regressions, he no longer reacted to the extraordinary. With calm precision, he activated the system, confirming his identity. A burst of light erupted as the hidden shop interface came to life, authorized exclusively for him. The shop unveiled a cascade of powerful avatars, rare skills, and treasures. Each item bore a price in color-coded coins. Zephyros and Thor, both top-tier avatars, required precious green and yellow coins. Books containing forgotten hero skills, and rare artifacts like Mogre, flashed across the space, like projections from another world. Yancy looked on in awe, unfamiliar with such a trove. Gongyuik explained this secret vault was a transformation chamber for the elite, a place where wealth defined potential. He exchanged thousands of purple coins for navy ones. With them, he identified a recommended avatar for Yancy Yeyu, but warned her not to buy it. Her current avatar outclassed the suggestion, and upgrades were restricted without expanding slots. Then Gongyuk found what he was searching for: an evolution stone. Spending his navy coins, he triggered a transformation in his observer avatar. A radiant glow engulfed the chamber as the avatar ascended, revealing a new form, sleeker, stronger, and prepared for what lay ahead. The avatar's evolution began, triggered by the selection of the Game Master route. A surge of energy enveloped the transformation, invoking past powers long buried. As the system initiated the final sequence, new abilities and interface elements emerged, reflecting its elevated status. The avatar's form changed, adapting to its enhanced role. Its name now carried weight: Avatar GM, with a sleek design and augmented potential. It stood fully awakened, ready to manipulate the battlefield with overwhelming authority. King Radis sat atop his throne in the deepest chamber of the sewer dungeon. Cloaked in shadows, the beast stirred as a heavy presence approached. His crimson eyes opened, sensing a confrontation long overdue. The thick dungeon doors creaked apart, revealing the challengers who had reached his lair. Gongyuk and Yancy stepped inside, unfazed by the suffocating pressure of the boss room. King Radis observed the duo, amused by their numbers. Despite the imbalance, he rose without hesitation and lunged forward with violent speed, launching a barrage of clawed strikes. Gongyuk moved to meet him, baiting the boss with taunts as Yancy held her position behind. The clash began violently. Radis struck with overwhelming force, forcing Gongyuk into a defensive retreat. A powerful magical pulse followed, revealing the boss's intent to finish the fight swiftly. Gongyuk evaded narrowly, but Radis wasn't done. He raised his weapon for a devastating overhead swing, known for bypassing defenses. Gongyuk adjusted his stance, maintaining control and focus, determined not to yield. A steel clashed against claw. Gongyuk countered with precision. Though the boss acknowledged his agility, he remained unfazed. Radis grinned, declaring that Gongyuk's skill alone wouldn't be enough to defeat him. King Radis unleashed a devastating chain attack, cloaking the battlefield in thick poison gas. Gongyuk and Yancy were forced to halt their advance. Visibility dropped instantly, and the toxic fog distorted their senses. Yancy called out, unable to track their opponent through the haze. Gongyuk recognized the shift. It was the boss's signature phase. A dark projectile pierced the smoke, cutting into Gongyuk's arm. The venom spread rapidly. His system confirmed the effect. King Radis's blood poison was taking hold, draining health and slowing movement. Despite the injury, Gongyuk remained standing, gritting his teeth as his stamina faltered. But Yancy wasn't idle. Realizing the nature of the poison, she called forth her support skill, Avatar Shrine Goddess. Channeling divine energy, she invoked Detox Flower, dispersing vibrant green light across the chamber. The poison was neutralized. Gongyuk's strength returned as the status effects vanished from his body, renewed. Gongyuk taunted the boss once more. Meanwhile, Yancy launched a flanking maneuver, drawing King Radis's attention. The beast turned to intercept, exposing his back. That moment was all Gongyuk needed. He closed the gap, empowered by rage and timing. Activating a critical skill, Gongyuk struck true. One decisive blow to end the fight. King Radis collapsed. Victory was theirs. With King Radis defeated, Gongyuk and Yancy took a moment to recover, though their triumph was soon met with unexpected tension. A mysterious observer, cloaked in darkness, silently watched them from beyond. Though impressed, they cleared the dungeon with only 2 fighters. The observer questioned whether their strength would be enough for what lay ahead, specifically the towering threat known as Babel. Without warning, a new ability activated Mind's Eye. A vision appeared, Shimond, an ominous figure titled the King of the Great Sewers, a rank. The situation escalated beyond a mere boss fight. Suddenly, Radis's voice echoed again. But this time, it wasn't the beast himself. His spirit lingered aware, conscious, and speaking directly to the victors. He recounted a tragic past. 4 centuries ago, in the world of Pezaron, a dungeon had emerged. With it came chaos, monsters, and the rise of hunters. Ruthless, once a protector, fought alongside 6 heroes to save their world. But Babel proved overwhelming. The defenders were annihilated, and Pezaron was absorbed. Worse, Ruthless revealed that his fallen body was only a replica, a monster molded after his real self. Earth, he warned, was next in Babel's path. If Gongyuk and Yanyansi failed, their world too would fall. After receiving a white coin as a reward, Gongyuk was informed it could be used to unlock a new avatar slot. The system activated a skill called Permission Expansion, officially adding a new slot to his interface. With the update complete, both Gongyuk and Yansi stood ready to proceed. Having cleared all objectives within the dungeon, Shamandi, Spirit of the Great Sewers, offered his strength as an A-rank avatar to aid their fight against Babel. The system prompted Gongyuk to accept. Yansi was impressed, but Gongyuk refused the offer, deeming the avatar too weak for his standards. Shamandi's pride was wounded. Enraged by the rejection, he attempted to chase them down as Gongyuk and Yansi casually exited the chamber. 4 days after the 7th grand summoning of Babel, the first floor's village hub bustled with new arrivals. Among them, a figure cloaked in black quietly stepped forward. This was Yansi, concealing her identity under a hood. Without revealing her true name, she requested to register for the rankings anonymously. The receptionist hesitated but accepted her entry. Moments later, the rankings updated, and to everyone's shock, she was immediately placed second, surpassing veteran hunters and receiving the ranker's blessing. Her sudden rise caused an uproar among nearby adventurers. Whispers and stares spread through the crowd as players questioned who she was and how she ranked so high. Several approached, demanding answers. Suspicion mounted when they noticed she hadn't participated in any public raids. One challenger tried to unmask her, forcing her to internally panic. Her anonymity was already unraveling. Elsewhere, deep in the forest, Gongyuk quietly observed the chaos through a magical interface. He invoked a special skill, Avatar GM, activating system-level access. His avatar processed a command to forcibly connect and register a new score. The interface pulsed with blue light, then suddenly issued a warning. A new ranking entry, an astronomical 13,210 points, overtook the board. Securing first place and shaking the entire hierarchy, the ranking board stirred chaos. Players couldn't comprehend the result. The score marked under the name X was so absurd that even combining the next 9 ranks didn't match it. Confused murmurs spread as Yansi tried to process it. No one knew who X was, but it was clear the system had been tampered with. Yet, among the administrators, one recognized the deeper issue. The anomaly wasn't just the altered route, it was that someone had achieved such a score at all. While eyes were drawn to the rankings, Gongyuk, hidden among foliage, observed with amusement. Meanwhile, Yansi used the distraction to slip away, but her escape was interrupted by the sight of a wounded man collapsed in an alley. Despite his pleas to be left alone, Yansi couldn't ignore his condition. She prepared to summon a healing avatar, but a distant warning echoed in her mind not to summon in public. Before she could act, a bystander interfered, insisting she respect the injured man's wishes. Pressed for time, Yansi asked the man to take care of the wounded. Though skeptical, he agreed only to violently attack the injured man instead. As Yansi fled, another unexpected complication unfolded behind her. Whispers followed Yansi as she walked away, but attention quickly shifted to the bald man Igor the Thug. Once a top-ranked hunter, he had slipped to 6th place. Despite this fall, his reputation for violence remained. After violently attacking the wounded man, he justified his cruelty by claiming the victim was already finished. With a twisted grin, he pocketed the man's coins, mocking Yansi's earlier kindness. But Yansi didn't leave, eyes blazing with silent fury. She activated a skill psychokinesis. With a burst of invisible force, she hurled Igor across the street. Shocked and reeling, Igor could barely respond as Yansi stepped forward and returned the stolen coins to their rightful owner. The man, still injured but conscious, looked on in disbelief. Yansi mocked Igor's arrogance, reminding him that rank alone meant nothing without humanity. As Igor cursed and threatened her from the ground, Yansi turned and left, ignoring his demands to know her name. The injured man watched her go, clutching the returned coins in silence, before quietly expressing gratitude. Far away, at the edge of the hunting grounds, Igor stormed into his hideout. Fueled by humiliation and rage, he summoned his partner Jacob. With vengeance in mind, he vowed to track down the woman who defied him. Inside Igor's hideout, he discovered Jacob bleeding and barely conscious. Shocked by the ambush, Igor realized someone had struck first. As he panicked, a distant observer monitored the scene through a magic interface, smirking at the unfolding chaos. Hidden deep in the woods, a quiet cabin stands untouched. masking the violence within. Inside, a man lies torn apart, his shoulder pulverized, his stomach savaged by a brutal slash. Wounds from a spear and axe cover his limbs. Blood pools beneath him as he mutters in frustration, surveying the injuries. A bald man furrows his brow, confused by the weapon variety. There's too much damage for a single attacker. This feels deliberate, even tactical. Nearby, more armed figures arrive, casually discussing monsters and profit with misplaced confidence. One among them questions their location while scanning the unfamiliar terrain. Recognition dawns. It's Igor's hideout, a place known only to few. Concern flickers in their eyes as one warns against drawing Igor's notice. In an instant, Igor emerges and grabs the girl from behind, his gaze locks onto each weapon: hammer, blade, spear, axe, connecting them to past pain. Weapons are drawn in haste, but tension suffocates their resolve. Stepping forward, Igor speaks with venom, accusing them of betrayal. Without hesitation, he drives a blade through the girl's side. Her body collapses. Silence follows. The group realizes they've awakened something monstrous. Charging forward, the hunters attack with rage, seeking vengeance for a fallen ally named Mac. From a distance, another figure insults them, mocking their weakness and blind anger. Igor lunges into action, his name now marked as a future wielder of the deadly avatar Ripper. Despite their numbers, the gap between hunters and rankers becomes painfully obvious. Even with a tank on their side, they doubt Igor can win alone against 4 opponents. Speculation rises: if a ranker falls to lower hunters, fear may ripple through the ranks. Several days pass, and the scene shifts to Thoth's great temple, flickering with torchlight. Gongyuk and Yancy ascend the steps, discussing the recent death tied to weak hunters. With a solemn tone, she remarks that people should live cleaner lives. Gongyuk questions if she means him. Tension builds as news spreads among lower-tier hunters, fueling paranoia and unease. Rather than risk dying to demons, whispers urge them to join forces and hunt rankers. Yancy realizes Gongyuk foresaw this, and prompted her to hide her rank intentionally. They finally arrive at the temple's boss chamber, its entrance towering above them. Gongyuk warns he won't be able to protect Yancy in the upcoming battle weapon. Drawn, she confirms readiness. He nods once. Gongyuk and Yancy step into the chamber. Before them stands the towering temple guardian, Thoth's boss. Golden armor gleams as the guardian rises, declaring them intruders of Ra Jefta's sacred space. Without hesitation, Gongyuk activates his throwing skill and launches a spear toward the enemy. The weapon pierces the guardian's side. A reaction follows. Its system is poisoned with alchemy toxins. As it recoils, Gongyuk circles. The guardian glares, calling him a worthless human. Knowing this is the hardest boss on Babel's first floor, Gongyuk prepares poison caltrops with precision. The guardian attacks in fury, leaping down to strike with deadly force. Gongyuk counters with toxic tear gas, veiling the area in thick fumes. The blast disrupts the enemy's line of sight, buying precious seconds to reposition. Though impaired, the guardian mocks Gongyuk's strategy as cheap tricks. Debuffs accumulate poison, caltrops, and gas, weakening the monster's form. A poisoned flail spins toward Gongyuk, who narrowly dodges and counters confidently. The boss roars in frustration while Gongyuk continues his evasion. His strategy is clear: keep moving. Let poison chip away over time. Suddenly, a scream. Yancy faces a new threat: jackals flanking from the rear. Gongyuk charges forward, ignoring the chaos behind him. His focus stays locked on the towering boss. Guardian taunts him for abandoning Yancy, but Gongyuk remains calm and determined. Behind them, Yancy defends herself as a swarm of jackals lunges toward her position. Gongyuk receives a system prompt asking for permission to intervene. He gives a subtle nod. Meanwhile, Yancy struggles against the jackals, unable to repel the incoming assault. Just as a beast leaps toward her, a new figure descends from above with immense force. The impact shakes the ground, scattering enemies and leaving a crater in the floor. Coughing from the dust, Yancy looks up at the unexpected savior. He introduces himself as Soma Songhai, offering his hand in calm assurance. Soma thanks her for past kindness: rice balls and flowers given at a village. Yancy recognizes him as the collapsed man she once helped long ago. Before more words are exchanged, another beast howls, reminding them of the danger. Sensing the threat, Soma moves Yancy back and calls forth his power. He activates the avatar Neo Guardian, taking on a glowing form of divine resilience. With a battle cry, the empowered Soma punches through the charging jackal midair. Yancy watches in awe as Soma effortlessly deflects the beasts. He shifts into Spartacus, gaining another avatar with destructive strength. As his revolution skill activates, a shockwave erupts, scattering enemies around him. With calm resolve, Soma prays for the beast's passing before another lunges from behind. A savage jackal leaps at him, but a spear cuts through midair, protecting his back. Yancy rushes to support him, calling out with urgency as danger surrounds them both. Turning slightly, Soma acknowledges Yancy's help, appreciative of her steady presence in battle. Nearby, Gangyuk notices the balance has shifted now that Soma is on their side. Before he can act, the temple guardian swings, ferociously, forcing him to dodge instantly, brushing off the prior fight. Gangyuk regains his composure while circling the guardian. The enemy recognizes Gangyuk's agility, questioning whether he predicts attacks in advance. Despite evasive moves, Gangyuk knows poison damage alone won't win. Time is running out. The guardian snarls, declaring the end of games, and charging with full strength. Thundering steps close the distance rapidly as dust erupts under his pounding advance. With glowing eyes, he announces the start of a hunt, shifting the battle's tone, drawing his weapon. Gangyuk equips the giant tiger scimitar with precision. Rather than retreat, he calmly clarifies the truth. He isn't the prey here. His eyes narrow. Blade raised, the true target has always been the guardian. Within a cracked arena floor, Gangyuk stands his ground as the jackal-like guardian closes in. Tension thick in the air. Although the creature begins to predict his attack rhythm, Gangyuk quickly notices its physical shortcomings. Deciding to act, he lunges forward, but the guardian retaliates sharply. Clutching his injury, Gangyuk reassesses speed alone might overcome the foe's pattern recognition. His next strike comes faster, yet the beast counters again, sinking its claws into his ribs with brutal precision. As pain flashes across his face, a voice cries out. Yancy watches anxiously. While fending off jackals, the ally questions if they should help Gangyuk instead. Yancy shakes her head, explaining their orders handle the endless jackal spawn, while the guardian still lives. Engaging now would collapse their formation, forcing them to battle both threats simultaneously. Steel flashes as the shirtless fighter continues to cut down jackals, his brow furrowed with concern. Still holding firm, Yancy urges him to trust Gangyuk's strength and stay focused. With fierce conviction, she believes her brother will prevail against the guardian alone. Another crushing strike from the guardian narrowly misses, Gangyuk narrowly evading disaster. The beast sneers, dismissing his resistance as futile, and prepares a final, but Gangyuk smirks. His barrier activates at the critical moment. Gangyuk draws a new weapon, an iron rapier gleams in his grip. Charging ahead with renewed agility, he closes the distance in a blink. With a precise strike, he pierces through the guardian's chest, blood spraying as it howls in pain. Despite its injury, the guardian lashes out wildly, but Gangyuk meets it head-on with relentless aggression, activating his skill one strike sever, delivering the final blow before the monster can recover. A loud notification echoes. Dungeon boss, temple guardian defeated. As Suma watches, impressed. Standing amidst the remains, Gangyuk is greeted by Yancy and Suma, who express awe at his solo victory, confirming she trusted he could defeat the boss alone. Amused, Suma questions why someone so powerful had once collapsed in combat, prompting laughter. Yancy teases Gangyuk for still calling the enemy Mr. Igor, pointing out his overly kind nature. Their light conversation shifts to admiration as Gangyuk reflects on Yancy's unique support skills. He acknowledges Suma's unparalleled mental strength and leadership, praising him as humanity's strongest tank. Gangyuk thanks Suma for protecting Yancy, and extends an offer to join his future battles. Overwhelmed, Suma accepts with gratitude, calling the invitation a great honor. As they prepare to collect their reward, Gangyuk notes the true reward may have already been earned, unleashing the mind's eye ability. Gangyuk illuminates the chamber with divine light while capturing a celestial presence. Yancy and Suma are stunned as the oath and time god Ra-Jephthah is restrained in midair. Gangyuk reveals this capture was his true purpose for braving the most dangerous dungeon. Ra-Jephthah had been his target all along. Standing before the Golden Guardian, Gangyuk declares his resolve to claim the Demon Lord's head, and begs for power. The Guardian narrows his glowing eyes, pausing in silence, as he considers the demand. With firm rejection, he refuses, condemning Gangyuk's actions against the innocent Guardians. Calling him arrogant, the Guardian expresses disgust at the idea of assisting someone so reckless. Smirking, Gangyuk counters with sarcasm, questioning how pride survives even after defeat by Babel. Yancy and a monk explain the catastrophe was destined, not his fault. Meditation, the Guardian adds, brings peace. Refusing to back down, Gangyuk labels his reasoning as cowardly evasion dressed in calm words. The Guardian dismisses the conversation, uninterested in provocations tied to past tragedies. He coldly states his people are lost forever, closing himself off from further guilt. Gongyuk insists the disconnection came from divine loss, not death. Reveals they still endure in Babel, suffering without guidance. Suma's stoic mask cracks as doubt creeps and he asks if it's true. Calling on Avatar GM, Gongyuk issues a command with quiet authority. The skill permission expansion activates, unleashing radiant energy. A ruined Babel appears before them, shocking the Guardian into stunned silence. Towering beast with glowing eyes advances through the blazing ruins, its heavy steps shaking the earth. The Guardian stares in disbelief as Gongyuk demands answers, questioning why his people are under attack. Without panic, the Guardian urges him to stay calm. Everything will become clear soon enough. Within the burning city, defenders rally under orders to intensify their holy attacks. Monstrous enemy snarls with rage, calling the Thoth defenders vermin. A priestess responds with fierce resolve, declaring their devotion to Lord Rajaphet and rejecting the intruder's presence. The beast curses Thoth's people, labeling them selfish traitors. Fueled by fury, it charges forward, shaking the ground with explosive force. As the enemy roars, citizens scream, but a leader shouts for them to stand strong, calling for divine retribution. The priestess invokes Rajaphet's name against the invaders. Her faith is shattered when the monster claims their god abandoned them long ago. Despair turns to rage as he denounces their god and unleashes another devastating blow. Encouraged by a successful hit, the Thoth warriors see a chance to retaliate. They launch a volley of holy light, battering the enemy with force. Despite the assault, the monster vows vengeance, roaring that he will kill them all. Staring in disbelief, the Guardian processes the painful vision before him. Above them, Avatar GM projects the suffering on Babel's higher floors with cold clarity, reflecting on the scene. Gongyuk questions whether this is truly what becomes of a forgotten god. Rather than stay silent, Gongyuk jabs at the god's inactivity while mortals struggle. Irritated, the Guardian warns him to hold his tongue, unwilling to hear more. From behind, a monk speaks up, surprised by Gongyuk's knowledge of deeper floors. With calm defiance, Gongyuk dismisses any claim that the footage was fabricated. He turns the guilt back on the Guardian, highlighting the god's abandonment of his people. Without waiting for a reply, he flicks his cigarette to the floor and walks away. Instead of pleading, Gongyuk reminds him that people are still waiting. Promising action, he declares his intent to eliminate the demon lord and free the trapped. Finally moved, the god prepares himself, no longer willing to stand aside. Within the depths of Hellgate, Labyrinth's 5th floor, flickering torchlight revealed a long, silent corridor. Without warning, a towering armored sentinel burst into view. Chaos erupted as the creature lunged. Some braced for impact, while others shouted, their formation breaking apart. From behind the disoriented group, Gongyuk stepped forward with confidence. The attack landed with explosive force, splitting through metal as the enemy reeled back, sparks and fire scattering. Standing amidst the flames, Gongyuk turned to the others. One man, still shaken, questioned his identity. Gongyuk answered casually, claiming to be just a passing hunter. Another doubted him. But their red-haired teammate silenced the skepticism with a sharp remark. Gratitude replaced fear. They acknowledged they owed him their lives. The redhead explained their mission. They were elite rankers sent to conquer the dungeon. Troubling rumors had emerged. Top hunters were being hunted by others to steal rankings. One demon even warned that once time ran out, hunters beyond the village would perish. This trend surged after a powerful hunter, Igor, was defeated. Violence escalated quickly. Rather than worry, Gongyuk saw the pattern unfold just as anticipated. When asked about his group, he calmly stated they were nearby, just not brought in yet. The red-haired woman watched Gongyuk closely, sensing something unusual. With a calm nod, she offered an invitation to join their boss raid. Gongyuk silently considered the proposal. Without hesitation, he accepted. They shook hands, agreeing to fight together. Their team advanced down the corridor, approaching the heart of the labyrinth with determination. Suddenly, flames erupted beyond the gate, shaking the ground and lighting the chamber in orange. The dungeon boss appeared, a towering, snarling two-headed hellhound. Its roar echoed with deadly fury. Gongyuk sprang into action, leaping through fire toward the beast. His blade ignited with fierce intent. He struck hard, unleashing a special skill, instant kill. The attack tore into the monster's frame. The hellhound screamed and retaliated, blasting flames in every direction, shaking the arena. Without fear, Gongyuk mocked the beast. He'd slain worse before. Summoning his strength, he launched projectile throw and struck with precision. Now wielding the flame giant's halberd, he moved with deadly focus, the beast groaning in pain. Watching from behind, The team was stunned. A message appeared: his alias scored 10,000 points in the latest rankings. No one had known his identity until now. Realization struck: he'd been clearing dungeons solo all along. While the battle raged, the others watched Gongyuk in awe. No matter how strong Gongyuk was, he could still fall to ambush or greed. She smirked, suggesting that killing him would earn them fortune in coins and ranking until he shouted mid-battle to stay focused. After a pause, Gongyuk asked when the dungeon's party mechanic would activate. With perfect timing, he answered his own question right now, and triggered it as fire surrounded them. It dealt damage based on the number of enemies nearby. Gongyuk confirmed he knew this all along, revealing that's why he came alone. Rage filled one of the injured men. He accused Gongyuk of using them as shields, but Gongyuk didn't flinch. He mocked them for lacking fire resistance. His was 582%. With steel resolve, he cut one man down. The red-haired woman demanded an explanation. Gongyuk reminded her this was exactly what they plotted. Fury burned in his eyes as he recalled being betrayed 44 years ago, losing his arm to their treachery. Shocked, the woman insisted she wasn't even born then. To him, the memory was fresh. She couldn't remember, but he never forgot. The giant hellhound lunged at them again with a monstrous roar. A blazing two-headed hound exploded into the scene, jaws wide and furious. Without warning, one of the heads struck. A black wolf lunged up just in time, intercepting the fangs and pushing back with fierce resistance. Displeased by the interference, the man narrowed his eyes and moved forward, stepping past both the injured wolf and ally without hesitation. With a swing of his weapon, his body surged with power as the skill 1/execution activated. Steel met flame as his blade sliced cleanly through the boss. The system confirmed victory. Titles, rewards, and coins appeared, recognizing his flawless performance. He gave the defeated ally a cold glance and muttered, dismissing him without care. Blue energy shimmered as he reached toward a hovering interface, selecting a new ability. Predation unlocked, and he quickly acknowledged its usefulness. The avatar followed his command, devouring the slain beast's remains with precision. Suddenly, a pink-haired woman approached from the shadows. Gracefully landing, she introduced herself as Liane, a succubus serving Lord Christie. The man frowned, realizing her arrival could jeopardize everything. Glancing at the avatar, he considered retreat, knowing she'd erase him if provoked. But instead, she smiled and admired both his looks and strength, intrigued. Liane leaned in closer, teasing with a smirk. Her tone shifted playfully, admitting he was her type. The man responded with disinterest, brushing her hand aside. Annoyed but still smiling, she called him impatient. Her eyes narrowed with mock irritation. Suddenly, she brightened and revealed her purpose, delivering his hidden quest reward. A system message appeared. The quest reward confirmed his success. Notifications announced the completion and listed Laplace's poison and coins. While she detailed his next mission, he cut her off coldly. Killing more wasn't in his plan. Unfazed, she taunted him for being cocky, warning that floor 1 meant nothing in Babel. Her magic ignited, a dark energy swirling violently. She readied a demonstration of true strength. Calmly, he issued a command to block demon quests from reaching him. A barrier flared, forcing her back mid-charge. Frustrated, she hissed through the wall. He turned away, muttering about the hassle. Looking at the avatar, he gave it permission to consume freely. Predation activated again. The avatar lunged, devouring remnants with brutal efficiency, mouth wide, fangs flashing. With a flick, he readied another ability. Flames burst as he tested ignite. He lit a cigarette, calmly, exhaling smoke as sparks faded. Finally, he returned to the group, pretending once again to be just another teammate. In the village zone of Babel's first floor, a winged woman stood calmly by a large blue fountain, watching newcomers approach. As she greeted them, her eyes focused directly on the black-haired man, identifying him as Hunter with deliberate interest. Joined by Gongyuk and Shi, he stepped forward. He announced his intent to take on the 100 Survivors quest. Her expression shifted at the mention. She explained that only 50 people currently lived on floor 1, visualizing the risk. She warned that stepping outside the safe zone meant death at the hands of a demon. Yancy proposed a workaround. A tie within the top 50 could technically allow all 100 to survive. The woman replied that such coordination would be nearly impossible and not something brute force alone could achieve. Yet Gongyuk expressed unwavering faith, insisting he could handle it. She recalled that the man had bypassed the ranking system once. Mocking her curiosity, he refused to reveal anything more. Confidently, he selected the reward he desired without hesitation. Brushing off further questions, he named the Holy Spirit Summoning Scroll. Her reaction was immediate shock mixed with disbelief. Eyes narrowing, She questioned how he could possibly know of it. Facing him squarely, she demanded answers. How much did he really understand about Babel? In the depths of the 5th sublevel, murky water rippled as tension spread through the dungeon's narrow halls. Without warning, the grand worm burst forth, its colossal form twisting with aggression and venomous intent. Reacting instantly, the team leader commanded a formation, but the creature's strike disrupted their footing and scattered the group. A soldier fell back, pierced by the worm's blow, blood leaking as the venom surged through his veins. Uncertainty gripped them. Facing the beast seemed hopeless, yet returning meant certain death under village law. As panic escalated, teammates argued over survival. Unaware the monster was preparing to lunge again, a figure stepped in, raising a defense with the skill diamond indestructible. Just in time, the impact collided with golden resistance, stunning everyone as they regained composure. Suddenly, another ally used Detox Blossom, purging the poison from the injured man's body. Yancy emerged from the shadows, offering safety with calm assurance. Her warning rang out. The grand worm wasn't finished. Gongyuk arrived amidst fire, activating Ignite with explosive force. He marched through the blaze, expression steady. Flames engulfed the beast, halting its charge. Victory no longer felt impossible. Explosions rang out as flames consumed the grand worm, its final screech echoing through the dungeon walls. The beast collapsed, body mangled and smoldering, marking the end of a deadly battle. Its death was confirmed. The masked man stood silently amid the steam and ruins, victorious. One of the survivors stepped forward and offered sincere thanks. Though appreciative, curiosity took over. They asked who their mysterious saviors were. Rather than answering directly, the masked warrior handed them a red book containing vital dungeon knowledge. The book detailed enemy patterns and strategy. It promised rapid growth, even for novices, confused by the offer. The group hesitated until a contract was summoned through a glowing ritual. A pact titled 365-Day Pact appeared above their heads. The masked figure explained the terms, requiring all of them to sign the contract. Rules were strict: limited stat growth, no return to the village for 3 days. Night fell on the village as the agreement took hold and time moved forward. With murder restrictions lifted, powerful rankers gathered and observed the empty streets with suspicion. Their assumption was clear: the weak had fled to the dungeons out of fear. Mua Jackson, rank 2, waited in silence. He knew they'd eventually have to return. Raffen confirmed no low-rank hunters remained nearby, reporting only monsters and a single powerless man within range. A trembling man begged for mercy, swearing he'd broken no rules and hadn't resisted any orders. Desperate, he pleaded further, reminding his would-be killer of their shared past and kindness. The man argued he held no value, claiming death would yield no coins. But the blade loomed closer. With wide eyes, he tried to spark sympathy, referencing meals shared and old loyalty. Calling out their shared homeland, he reached for humanity, but fear showed in his trembling voice. Blood splattered across the walls. His pleas ended in a single, brutal strike. Cries of terror filled the street. One man begged, another watched coldly. Despite claiming the weak weren't a threat, the killers still took what coins they could. Night passed with screams. By dawn, no low rankers had returned. Rankers concluded they had fled and chose not to pursue them further. Elsewhere, masked figures gathered near the dungeon gate, their arrival drawing sharp attention. Shock spread. Whispers rose. Was this the mysterious figure known as X? Recognition sparked among the crowd. Silence followed his ominous entrance. He said nothing. His presence alone changed the air. Rumors about the masked man stirred unease. Some identified him as the infamous dog mask fighter. A warning was issued: only those aligned with Jackson's faction could proceed. He raised his weapon and drew a boundary. Any step beyond it meant death. Yancy and Gongyuk collect healing flowers in the field zone, arranging them carefully for passing hunters. A young hunter approaches and inspects the flowers. Yancy explains their reduced healing effect when itemized. Grateful, the hunter buys a large bundle. Yancy encourages him as he leaves, hoping the sale helps their situation. Gongyuk approaches Yancy, mentioning that her brother is likely negotiating with high rankers. Though uneasy, she believes her brother planned ahead. Noting her brother's unusual confidence, though neither knows what he intends to do. A warrior recalls their leader's ability to command hunters through a powerful skill. Suspicion grows as he imagines darker motives behind the isolation. Suddenly, violent strikes erupt, confirming something has gone terribly wrong. A transformed fighter stands over a body, shocking nearby hunters. Panic spreads as they realize he acted deliberately. He warns that crossing the boundary will mean death. No one dares challenge him. Another hunter attempts to rush forward, but the fighter blocks the path with ruthless force. Chaos follows as he repeats that no one will enter the dungeon. His stance leaves no room for argument. Hunters fall one after another, unable to overcome his overwhelming strength. He stands firm, ensuring absolute control as the final hunter collapses at his feet. When a hunter questions his actions, the masked fighter calmly states, "It's part of a quest to protect those ranked under 50 from dying." Hoping they'd raise their ranks, but their fearful expressions revealed they were far from ready. He forms a blockade, halting their advance with quiet resolve. Instead of backing down, the high rankers launch an attack, driven by pride and anger at being stopped. With agile movements, the masked warrior avoids their strikes and retaliates, knocking one down with brutal precision. As he activates his weapon, blue energy surges around him. The skill Clean Cleave activates, slicing through opponents with unmatched speed and power. Shouts of pain echo as bodies fall. The formation collapses before it can stabilize. Rallying themselves, the hunters push forward, vowing not to give him a moment to recover. Each counterattack from him is lethal, his strikes clean and efficient, leaving no room for retaliation. Reminding them they should have listened before charging in recklessly. Clarifying his stance, he states the low-rank hunters pose no threat to the high rankers standing, surrounded by corpses. He reiterates his warning: anyone crossing his line will die. One red-haired opponent dismisses his efforts as insignificant. Mocking his recent victory, she steps forward, ready to test his resolve with real force. 3 elite rankers, Glek, rank 6, Brandon, rank 5, and Kim Se-xiong, Chewel, rank 4, step forward. Kim, wearing a smug grin, promises to crush the masked fighter's resistance and break his defiant attitude. Without hesitation, Glek launches the first strike, initiating a swift and aggressive clash. Blocking Glek's sword, the masked fighter holds his ground with sharp reflexes and firm balance. Brandon joins in, adding pressure to the assault with a well-timed downward strike. The masked warrior absorbs the blow, but is momentarily forced back from the dual impact. Spotting a brief gap in the defense, Kim charges in, aiming for a finishing stab with practiced precision. His blade narrowly misses as the masked opponent shifts position, dodging just in time. Pausing to observe, Kim remarks on their synergy. The trio unleashes a relentless chain of attacks, pushing their enemy to the edge. Despite Kim's high rank, doubts emerge. Perhaps his strength lies more in items than technique. A swift counter knocks Glek back, but the battle momentum still favors the rankers for now. Kim barks orders to stop the enemy's retreat, and Brandon surges in pursuit, with blade drawn, raising the stakes in the fight dramatically. Declares victory is one move away, aiming for the kill with a final deadly blow. The masked fighter suddenly activates a fire-based skill, causing his enemies to recoil at the rising flames engulfing his hand. He unleashes a large explosion, forcing Kim and his allies to retreat under the intense blast radius. Despite the surprise attack, Kim quickly calls for backup, and Maria prepares to assist without hesitation. Again, the masked fighter casts Ignite, conjuring another intense surge of fire. Maria, now confident, steps forward while claiming the attack will be ineffective. She calmly approaches as the flames spread, showing no concern for the fire. The fighter reacts too late as Kim strikes, shielded by a fire resistance buff called Falmir's Protection. Kim mocks the failed strike, disappointed. It didn't land critically. He taunts the masked man further, demanding to see more if that's truly the strength of the top ranker. Flames erupted violently as the villa's first floor exploded, scattering debris in every direction surrounded by fire. Kim, the white-haired warrior, triggered Ignite, shielding himself from the heat. He met Brandon's blade mid-air, steel clashing as sparks burst from their furious encounter. Brandon lunged with deadly force, his sword crashing down and splitting the ground apart. Amidst the smoke and crumbling walls, Kim maneuvered through the chaos with calculated speed. Just ahead, a fallen weapon caught his eye, a brief opening in the madness. Surrounded now, Brandon taunted him, with Glurk and others flanking from all sides. He smirked, wondering aloud how many coins he'd earned by killing the top-ranked fighter. In response, Kim invoked his avatar Tokazumaru and Roadblock surged forth. Enemies unleashed coordinated attacks, casting Decapitation and Whirlwind slash toward him. Kim enhanced his technique, flames igniting from the rear of his blade. With explosive momentum, he broke through their assault in a single burst. His blade, now empowered by Ignition Boost, sliced through Glurk with brutal precision. Watching in disbelief, Brandon froze at the sudden reversal. Behind the smoke, Yancy observed as scorched air trailed Kim's devastating path. Kim's blade cut through the final attacker, sending the blonde-haired Brandon collapsing in a pool of blood. Without a word, Kim stood tall as Brandon and Glurk fell defeated, eyes glowing faintly. Shouts erupted behind him as others panicked, stunned that 2 top-ranked fighters were eliminated so quickly. Tension spread fast, Whispers circling about Kim's strength, some called him a monster, reacting in fear. One of the fighters summoned Avatar Peltast, hoping to stall Kim. Kim answered with his own ignition boost, launching toward them like a missile. The force of his strike shattered defenses, throwing bodies across the stone street. A fiery explosion followed, erupting at the center of the clash. From the smoke, only Kim remained standing, while others struggled to rise. A wounded man begged for mercy, hands raised as Kim loomed over him. Unmoved, Kim tightened his grip and dragged the man across the floor. Suddenly, a loud impact interrupted the scene, shaking the ground beneath them. Voice echoed. Mua Jackson, rank 2, had arrived with energy crackling from his arm. He acknowledged Kim by name, surprised the infamous X recognized him. With a smirk, Mua asked if he should feel honored, eyes fixed on his new opponent. Mua Jackson studied Kim carefully, acknowledging that he wasn't facing an ordinary opponent. A quick glance toward Brandon's defeated body confirmed that Kim was far stronger than expected. Still, Jackson smiled, considering Kim to be a worthy challenge that might even be enjoyable. Kim warned that battling him would require risking one's life without hesitation. Acknowledging that in a fair fight he might lose, Jackson relied on the advantage of numbers. He summoned his Avatar Centurion and activated the skill Shared Fate. A protective aura spread from Jackson's skill, shielding all nearby allies from friendly fire. Dozens of soldiers surged forward, now immune to collateral attacks from their own side. With a confident command, Jackson ordered the tanks to lead the charge toward Kim. Support units prepared magical volleys, readying their aim without concern for allies in the line. Healers and buffers focused on strengthening frontliners, enhancing them for coordinated assault. At Jackson's shout, the full force barrage began, raining power toward Kim's position. Brandon signals the squad to unleash their spells as Kim advances without slowing. A surge of magic erupts across the arena, swallowing Kim in a flood of blazing energy. When the light fades, Glurk studies the smoke carefully, unsure whether their assault succeeded. From within the drifting fumes, Kim suddenly shoots upward, revealing himself unharmed. He then dives toward them with his blade ready, targeting the scattered front line. Brandon tries to rally the tankers, yet Kim reaches the ground before the order takes effect. A nullification buff activates around Kim, enabling attacks unhindered by ally proximity. He threads through the formation with sharp precision, exploiting every gap the squad leaves exposed. Several fighters launch rushed counterstrikes, attempting to break the pace of his assault. Kim responds with a sweeping group control skill aimed at overwhelming clustered opponents. His movements cut through the collapsing line while he builds another ignition burst. An explosive wave detonates outward, throwing the squad back and shaking the floor. Few members notice they avoided harm despite being near the blast point. Glurk attributes their survival to Brandon's resistance buff. Combined with Jackson's barrier, Kim lands before them again, completely composed, while their remaining options grow thin. Calmly declares their victory odds to be 0, his eyes glowing with certainty. In response, Brandon and the others prepare magic of various elements, surrounding him in a united front. Spells are launched simultaneously. Air, fire, water, and darkness surge toward the center. Brandon shouts to initiate the assault as magic streaks forward. Kim swiftly dashes between projectiles, dodging with inhuman speed before anyone can react. Jackson and another teammate rush in pursuit, with Brandon warning them not to overextend. Brandon outlines the plan to restrict Kim's movement, forcing him into the range of artillery. As Kim becomes occupied, the dealer team can exploit the distraction to strike. Shuled, they succeed. Brandon believes round 1 will conclude in their favor. Ignition boost intensifies his speed, turning his body into a streak of force. His weapon shatters mid-swing, worn down by repeated high-output techniques. Despite the cost, he shows no hesitation, already preparing his next strike. One fighter lands a clean hit, prompting Jackson to call for a follow-up. Sankyol charges in alone, shouting vengeance for fallen allies. Kim easily evades, switching to a halberd as he prepares to counter. A violent ignition boost blast erupts across the floor, sending debris rolling through the formation. Shock hits Brandon as he notices Seishong Chil recklessly charging straight into danger. Coins spill everywhere when Seishong Chil collapses, prompting a startled call of his name. Several gold pieces are plucked from the air while Kim remarks about being short on funds. A shining figure materializes around him as the Luge FD avatar activates. Power surges upward once the upgrade consumes over 1,000 purple coins, unlocking new abilities. Brandon fires off another order, trying to overwhelm the newly strengthened opponent. Every projectile misses as Kim slips between them, remarking on their sluggish pace. Time slows around the battlefield when clone control takes effect, letting him move freely. A blur darts behind the front line, striking multiple fighters before anyone senses movement. Panic rises as several bodies fall, without understanding how he crossed so much ground. Momentum collapses entirely once more teammates are cut down in rapid succession. Another ignition boost detonates outward, flinging several fighters through the air. Brandon freezes mid-step, trying to comprehend the sudden shift in dominance. A shadow appears behind him, followed by a clean, decisive strike that ends his part in the fight. Jackson falls after a failed attack, leaving Kim advancing without slowing. A calm stance follows, as Kim addresses the remaining fighter, noting how much resistance has already collapsed. Resigned look appears from the opponent, who realizes surrender offers no advantage in the situation. A sudden beam descends from above, halting Kim's movement, and drawing attention toward the sky. An armored figure with wings enters the field, observing the chaos caused throughout the match. Appearance shifts the atmosphere, as she questions why the fight resembles an elimination rather than survival. Surrounding students react with shock as an Archangel-class entity steps forward. Recognition spreads when Kim identifies her presence, noting Azazel's unexpected arrival. Her calm posture contrasts the battlefield, implying her role is not aligned with either side. In the village zone of Babel's first floor, a thick fog cloaked the area as unease crept in. From above, Gongyuk descended beside a winged figure, surrounded by corpses and stunned survivors. Rather than deny the accusation of betrayal, he made it clear his only concern was ensuring 100 people lived. The angel laid out a plan weaker hunters could unite under a shared contract to reach rank 50. However, Gongyuk had already acted, eliminating those ranked too high to shift the balance. For the angel, survival wasn't kindness, it was strategy. Humanity existed only to increase Babel's clearance odds. A bystander voiced doubt, questioning if Gongyuk's brutal tactics made him a puppet of demons. Gongyuk dismissed the claim, stating he merely followed orders. The client's identity meant little to him, what mattered was completing the mission. Azazel reminded him that divine interference violated celestial law. Panicked cries from nearby hunters pleaded for her intervention. Despite the pressure, she held her ground, noting the current body count might suffice. When told to stand down, Gongyuk didn't hesitate to decline. Injured already, he saw no reason to retreat. Claiming to hate pain, he advanced without fear, ignoring all warnings. Fury surged through Gongyuk as he unleashed devastating blows, declaring he would slaughter every last threat. His brutal force sent panic through the crowd, silencing resistance with raw violence. Cornered, Azazel conceded defeat and asked what he truly desired. Without hesitation, Gongyuk demanded the Holy Spirit summoning book be added to the quest reward. Azazel was stunned by his knowledge of the sacred item, reserved for a true Babel conqueror. She refused, branding him a villain unworthy of the book due to his ruthless methods. He dismissed her objection, mocking the repeated focus on clearing Babel. Unlike others, he claimed he could complete it alone even if humanity fell. Turning coldly, he told them to stop mourning over meaningless losses. Gongyuk challenged everyone to risk everything on him. Elsewhere, hunters reviewed a new contract binding Gongyuk to peace on the first floor. They realized they had little choice but to obey the terms. Zone Hunter asked what happens if the pact is broken. The answer chilled them. Gongyuk would appear immediately. As the tower's bell rang, dread sank, and none dared test the rule. Displayed on the quest screen, the Holy Spirit summoning book now appeared as part of the reward for achieving 100 survivors. Gongyuk sighed in irritation, muttering that Azazel should have included it from the beginning. With the covenant signed by all village rankers, the final documentation was dropped at his feet. Just as the matter seemed settled, his assistant mentioned a new development. A visitor entered the room, broad-shouldered, confident, and smiling. Gongyuk questioned his sudden return, having previously ordered him to stay away at the Northern Falls. Before he could respond, another figure stepped forward, with a pointed question: why does Gongyuk kill? The visitor already knew the answer. It tied back to Gongyuk's time before Babel. He recounted how Gongyuk fought for his nation's freedom, eliminating countless enemies and assassins alike. Nodding, the man admitted to his own history of bloodshed in the name of liberation. Yet faced with the question of justification, neither could find a clear answer. Even now, Gongyuk confessed uncertainty about the morality behind his brutal mission. Soma calmly stated that he kills for one purpose: to defeat the Demon Lord. His feelings about humanity's suffering meant little compared to his larger objective. He warned Gongyuk that, just like before, choosing that path again may drag him into the abyss. Gongyuk stood before Soma Sangai, the man from a past regression etched deeply in his memory. During that cycle, madness had consumed him. He'd become a ruthless killer who tore through hunters. Their meeting ended in blood and tension, with Gangyuk drenched in violence and Soma calm yet dangerous. Soma had claimed the world couldn't be saved, unmoved. Gangyuk responded with stubborn defiance. Driven by desperation, he activated Ignition Boost, unleashing a burst of power that scorched the air. Soma countered effortlessly, invoking Kongo Fuhai. His strength, reinforced by 2 avatars, proved overwhelming. Despite the odds, Gangyuk emerged victorious but not unscathed. A severe wound sealed his fate. Without Yancey's healing, his life slipped away, in that timeline. That failure taught him facing Soma too soon guaranteed ruin. Now, he clenched his fist, not in anger, but with renewed purpose. Instead of striking, he asked to stand beside Soma. Moved by sincerity, Soma recognized a change in him, rather than resist. Soma agreed. He chose to become a yaksha, offering his strength. Together, they walked forward this time, as allies. Liliane cackled wildly, thrilled by the chaos she'd caused. Gangyuk looked on, unamused by her antics. She had previously knocked down elite rankers, and even threatened an angel, yet acted like it was all a game. Despite her record, Gangyuk decided to overlook her past offense for now, and asked what she wanted. A reward notification appeared, marking the completion of multiple kill milestones on Floor 1. The prizes were generous, confirming that demon-aligned achievements had their advantages. Liliane added a rare item to the mix, a cursed sword named Grimside, far beyond Floor 1 standards. Though curious, Gangyuk remained silent, unsure of her motives behind the generous offer. She pressed closer, teasing him with flirtation, only to be shoved aside by his sharp retort. Gangyuk dismissed the weapon, requesting something non-combative instead. Annoyed, Liliane demanded appreciation, but Gangyuk reminded her to consider the recipient's needs. He asked for the vampire princess's ring, an item with unique control-based powers. Though surprised, she retrieved it, and he swiftly snatched it from her grasp. Recognizing his goal, she frowned, admitting her limits on granting such a request. Gangyuk declared he'd simply kill another 100 to reach Floor 3 himself. Her eyes widened, caught off guard by his boldness. A warning was given: only the strongest survive beyond this point. Gangyuk acknowledged it without hesitation. He welcomed the challenge, wearing a calm expression that masked his readiness. Liliane questioned his allegiance, but Gangyuk left the answer open, tied to her behavior. She offered the item in exchange for a kiss, but Gangyuk clearly refused. While she leaned in, expecting submission, she was suddenly ejected by system force. The expulsion surprised her, yet Gangyuk remained unaffected by her antics. As she pleaded for the return of the ring, Gangyuk swiftly claimed it. He showed no hesitation, asserting control over the situation. Holding the item, he dismissed her flirtation, disgusted by her actual age. As the final day on Floor 1 of Babel dawned, a peaceful village scene stood in stark contrast to the trials before. Marching through the entrance, a group of worn-out hunters approached with purpose, their uniforms torn but spirits intact. Yancey broke from the crowd, eyes wide, and embraced her brother in a moment of quiet relief. Soma reported that all lower-ranked hunters had returned safely, prompting murmurs of gratitude around him. A fellow survivor, still catching his breath, credited Xan for their last-minute survival and reaching the top 50. Acknowledging the thanks, Xan remained composed as others called him their savior. With the survivor count confirmed, a female officer instructed that rewards be prepared for those advancing. Meanwhile, a hunter glanced around, uneasy at how different the surroundings felt. A sudden explosion shattered the calm, drawing all eyes to the smoke. Emerging from the flames, Glurk returned his presence as menacing as ever. He coldly announced that only the top 50 would ascend. The rest, he warned, would meet their end here. Hovering above, Glurk mocked the group's silence. Suspicious of their calm stares, he clenched his jaw. With a snap, he triggered the ranking update. Glurk stared in disbelief at the updated rankings, confused by the unexpected result flashing across his display. Shock overtook him as he realized 93 individuals were evenly tied, every one of them within the top 50 threshold. That meant no one would be eliminated. The crowd erupted with celebration as survival was assured for all. Cheers broke out across the square. Laughter and praise echoed as survivors hailed Xan's efforts, calling out to Azazel, demanding to know what manipulation had occurred. He warned that direct interference was forbidden. Azazel denied any such act. Azazel gestured toward Liliane, implying she had prior knowledge of the outcome. Caught off guard, Liliane admitted she knew, though she offered no further explanation. Confusion returned as one survivor noticed their rank was listed at 24th, not tied at 50th. Another explained the reason: Xan had eliminated half of the competition, artificially raising their position. Yancey approached her brother, sensing something was wrong. but he remained silent. A nearby hunter dismissed the ranking detail as unimportant, causing frustration to rise. One survivor reminded the group of the 365-day pledge, which limited their score to 50th place. Realization struck they had violated the pledge, surpassing the score restriction and risking punishment. Glurk's eyes lit up with interest, sensing the error could change everything. His behavior raised questions about the real motive behind eliminating rankers. It was revealed that low rankers had been restricted from seeing the updated board, leaving them unaware of their scores. Azazel accused him of manipulating the rankings, suggesting Xan fed false scores to others while hiding the truth. Xan insisted survival cleared the quest, but others challenged him. Anger broke out among the survivors, realizing the consequences of their elevated rank violated the pledge terms. As enforcement activated, everyone's intelligence stat dropped instantly, plunging the group into disarray. Confusion and panic spread as several survivors began losing rational thought in front of everyone's eyes. Friends called out, but it was too late. The victims had fallen into a dazed, mindless state. From the chaos, an avatar descended Kongo Rikishi, radiating divine pressure as he entered the scene. Soma admitted fault, blaming his oversight for what unfolded. He turned solemn, questioning Xan's intentions in the face of disaster. The final question echoed, was Xan truly an enemy of humanity? Sunset bathed the village rooftops in peace, masking the tension that loomed. Several suited men strutted confidently through the streets, unaware of the coming reckoning. Without warning, Soma launched forward and slammed one of them into the ground. Unfazed, Gongyuk stood tall in his beast-like form, watching the chaos unfold. Suspicion grew in Soma's mind. The contract's penalty wasn't just for control. Its wording had been too precise, breaking it would reduce all stats to 1. Banning weaker hunters from entering wasn't protection, it was preparation. From Soma's view, the real goal had been clear, suppress and control. He demanded explanation, but Gongyuk met his gaze in silence, with no attempt to deny it. Gongyuk confirmed everything as true. Outrage swept through the crowd, some shouting, others stunned, mocking the scene. A pink-haired woman praised Gongyuk's cruelty as her success. Krust narrowed his eyes, sensing something was wrong beneath the surface. A clause about this moment stirred faintly in his memory. Suddenly, glowing red symbols erupted beneath a man's feet. A red seal erupted beneath a man's feet, lifting him helplessly as he struggled to escape. Dark silhouettes pulled others into the glowing trap, forcing them away from the others. Nearby, a hunter scanned her device, realizing something critical from the rule database. The clause she found revealed hunters with total stats under 1 would be forcibly summoned. Holding the data, Soma connected the event to the Angel Covenant's article 7. It was a rule written long ago to remove those too weak to continue fighting. Gongyuk explained the clause was meant to safeguard powerless hunters through automatic relocation. He clarified that they would be sent to their race's unique city on Babel's 5th floor. The city, long hidden, had become a refuge and a strategic base for humanity. Gongyuk emphasized most hunters weren't warriors, but support types essential for progress. They had skills in manufacturing, healing, and development areas vital for long-term survival. Since they couldn't reach the 5th floor by strength, he helped them reach it by rule. Though weakened, they could retrain. Ability wasn't fixed forever. What mattered most was manpower, building a future through collective effort. Babel required more than fighters. Every contribution shaped its conquest. Soma questioned Lilian's role, discovering she was the one who found Gongyuk. Gongyuk stood silently beside her, as she admitted everything had been part of a larger plan. Lilian smiled softly, her earlier resistance fading now that the truth had come to light. Unexpectedly, Gongyuk reached out a hand, prompting a moment of hesitation from Lilian. She accepted it without words, allowing him to lift her back to her feet. He announced the reason, claiming her reward for completing a hidden objective. A notification confirmed the quest was cleared, with 100 survivors secured. The reward, a rare summoning tome, appeared before Gongyuk's eyes. Confident in his progress, he noted that this regression was proceeding without issue. As plans moved forward, Soma instructed the group to prepare for transfer to the next floor. Supporters were gathered separately, raising concern over temporary separation. Reassured by Gongyuk, one hunter vowed to survive and reunite on the 3rd floor. Through a glowing red magic circle, Soma arrived on the 2nd floor, landing with composed strength, standing upright. He scanned the surroundings while his weighted beads shifted around his neck. The vast chamber was packed, far more densely populated than the previous floor, with hundreds crowding in. Voices murmured about eligibility, questioning whether everyone had placed in the top 50. A red shadow under Soma drew attention, sparking uncertainty about his identity. With a grin, he greeted a nearby man, casually calling him a good guy, surprising the stranger. Soma claimed he tried to live properly. Puzzled by the other's suspicion, the man clarified, pointing out that murderers from the first floor cast red shadows. Soma's was black. Despite his rugged appearance, his shadow proved innocence rare among this crowd. Suddenly, panic surfaced as a bright red shadow appeared in the distance. Warnings spread quickly. Avoid eye contact. That figure was Gantyuk, infamous for countless killings. Soma watched. Expression unreadable. When asked if they knew each other, he paused. With a laugh, he dismissed it as a misunderstanding. Soma quietly dismissed the idea of knowing a killer like Gantyuk. His eyes remained closed, betraying nothing. Ganhyuk walked ahead without looking back, stating they'd move separately on this floor for their mutual benefit. His red shadow trailed across the ground. It drew attention, making it clear he couldn't blend in. A purple-haired figure smirked, revealing sharp teeth and a piercing gaze. He introduced himself as the demon Mastema, immediately silencing the crowd. While some murmured in shock, others groaned at the thought of more rules. Mastema dismissed formalities and demanded silence. The second floor's trial would consist of 10 versus 10 battles. Holograms of warriors appeared in formation. Team creation began immediately. Mastema instructed everyone to group into teams of 10. Once the groups were ready, Babel would randomly pair teams to face off in combat. Each match unfolded through one-on-one duels. The next member stepped in only after one fell, to concede. A participant had to strike the ground 3 times and yell surrender. Victory belonged to the team that outlasted their opponents by survival or submission. With a yawn, Mastema ended the explanation and turned to leave. A man raised his hand hesitantly, asking whether losers would die like on the first floor. Mastema remained silent, sipping his drink as if he hadn't heard. The question lingered, unanswered. A blonde angel descended cheerfully, apologizing for Mastema's indifference, and taking over the explanation. With wings spread wide, she introduced herself as Nariel, and offered to clarify the remaining rules. Losing teams would be paired again for another match, with the same rules applying. Nariel warned that failing again in the loser's match would result in execution. Her words were followed by an image of shattered armor, driving the message home. Some participants calculated that around 3/4 could survive, calling it fairer than the first floor, if no one died in battle. Nariel added that murder had less value on this floor. Coin rewards were halved, scoffed but acknowledged the warning not to kill unnecessarily. Another participant approached Ganhyuk, suggesting they form a team and boasting about his fire magic. Ganhyuk coldly rejected him, telling him to leave. Soma's companion urged him to quickly gather strong allies. Observing the chaos, asked participants to form balanced teams, warning that unbalanced groups would disrupt the trial's fairness. She further incentivized this by promising special rewards for those who chose weaker teammates. Hearing this, a group approached one of the stronger-looking participants, nervously asking to join, glared in silence while others around him chuckled awkwardly, unsure of his response. A red-haired man mocked a weaker group, rejecting their request and calling them useless. The group stood silently, unsure how to respond to the harsh insult. Unexpectedly, Gantyuk approached and offered to team up with them, calling them the weakest. The second floor of Babel stood vast and silent, its arena bathed in golden light. From the shadows, a 10-person team emerged, composed mostly of underwhelming recruits. Surprisingly, a white-cloaked man accepted them without hesitation, prompting sincere gratitude from the group. Many onlookers watched with confusion, recalling unsettling rumors about the man's violent past. Some sneered, assuming he recruited weaklings just to gain personal benefits or angelic rewards. Dismissive voices echoed, mocking the idea that he could carry such a team on his own. Doubt grew louder as others questioned his sanity or motives. Rather than respond, he casually announced a smoke break and walked off. One teammate waved cheerfully, unaware of the silent storm brewing. In solitude, he pulled out a sacred tome pulsing with mysterious energy. As he opened the Holy Spirit summoning book, 10 skill coins shimmered into view. Power surged as the coins activated, surrounding him with radiant green light. Half the coins were spent, unlocking the passive ability Sephiroth. This divine skill granted access to the strength of archangels. New powers awakened spiritual collection, purification, Holy Spirit summon, and possession. After completing a successful summoning, Ganhyuk stood composed, wrapped in a radiant green aura. His sharp gaze scanned the space ahead, while someone nearby admired his skill. Stepping forward, Nariel greeted him, recognizing the man behind the wolf mask as the famed summoner. With a smile, she commented on his surprising decision to ally with weaker teammates. She revealed she had observed him earlier and praised the strategic thinking, worthy of Azazel's approval. Asked about Azazel's whereabouts, Neriel explained her senior had fallen ill, so she came instead. From her hand, she presented a glowing gem Angel's Tear as a reward for supporting weaker players. Gongyuk remained silent while she handed over the item, visibly pleased by his calm demeanor. Neriel then expressed hope that he would continue climbing to the tower's higher floors. Rather than accept quietly, Gongyuk requested a special dungeon key. Neriel laughed lightly, explaining such rare items couldn't be handed out casually. He countered by proposing it as a reward tied to a high-difficulty quest. Taking initiative, Gongyuk offered an extra mission and requested his team be placed first. His direct approach drew Neriel's attention as he outlined his proposal. Soon after, an official acknowledged his request, confirming Team Yi's position in the next match. A purple-haired official questioned Neriel's decision to accept Gongyuk's request, expressing disbelief at her judgment. Caught off guard, Neriel admitted she had felt pressured by Gongyuk's assertive presence. The man doubted Azazel's decision, criticizing her for trusting someone like Gongyuk with the summoning book. Before tension could escalate, another official announced the team formation process was finished. With the phase complete, it was decided that the highest level member would automatically become the team leader. A message confirmed Gongyuk's promotion to leader, positioning him as the final fighter in battle order. One of Gongyuk's teammates panicked, worried about their chances without him fighting early. Gongyuk calmly reassured them, instructing the weaker members to surrender as planned. He promised to eliminate all opponents himself once he entered the match. The first match began, with Team 51 stepping forward under a glowing summoning field. Observers watched closely as their opponents Team 13 were announced. Excitement surged as spectators cheered, believing the fight was already decided. Inside the grand arena on Babel's second floor, spectators filled the stands in anticipation of the tournament's opening clash. With a sharp tone, the announcer revealed the contenders, the 51st team, directed by the skilled Hunters X. Emerging from the shadows, Nepper's 13th team made a bold entrance, their confident expressions stirring tension across the room. A grinning member of Nepper's team stepped forward, clearly eager to fight and amused by the situation. Noticing the unusual color of his shadow, one opponent reacted with unease, recognizing it as a bad sign. Frustration crept in as another teammate questioned their luck, calling their opponents psychopaths. Remaining composed, Gongyuk urged his allies to focus, reminding them that fear wouldn't help now. With authority, the announcer initiated the round and summoned the fighters to the stage. Responding instantly, the mad contestant advanced, eyes wild with excitement. He charged forward, declaring his opponent as his first prey. From above, the audience watched the battle ignite with intensity. One fighter's instincts screamed this wasn't just a fight, it was a hunt. Desperate, the cornered contestant tried to surrender by tapping out. Shock hit him, his limbs were frozen, his body refusing to respond. Leaning in with a wicked grin, the enemy mocked his helplessness without mercy. From above, Nepper's voice echoed, as he mocked his teammate's struggle and asked whether help was needed. With a vicious swing, his crimson energy lashed out, targeting the paralyzed fighter below. The spectators watched in horror as blood splattered, leaving the opponent barely conscious. Screaming in agony, the downed contestant was drenched in blood, overwhelmed by pain. Nepper laughed coldly, claiming it was a fitting punishment for attempting to surrender so soon. Standing proudly, he declared that no one was allowed to quit because every opponent was his offering. The brutal display sparked panic among other teams, many of whom were visibly shaken. One fighter begged for death, unable to withstand the terror, but Nepper halted him. He warned the victim to obey his orders if he wanted a chance to survive. In response, the battered fighter summoned his avatar, a massive demon bear. Nepper mocked the beast's appearance, then summoned his own. With a roar, his avatar Ocelot emerged, feral, sleek, and terrifying. Spectators were stunned by Ocelot's monstrous form, distinct from the jaguar's original grace. Gongyuk explained that its grotesque shape reflected its user's corruption. With a wicked grin, Nepper gave the command, "Devour him." Ocelot lunged forward, biting directly into Demon Bear's neck with feral precision. The impact was brutal. Blood burst from the wound as Demon Bear shrieked in pain. Spectators watched in stunned silence while others remained calm, seemingly unfazed by the carnage. Without pause, Ocelot continued his assault, overpowering his opponent completely. Even the announcer was taken aback as Ocelot consumed the avatar entirely. From the crowd, Gongyuk observed quietly, noting that the predation limit had been ignored. The jaguar-like avatar growled menacingly, its aura spiraling out of control. A masked observer concluded that the user had already lost control of the avatar. The monster stood behind Nepper, pulsating with unstable power and primal rage. Despite the chaos, Nepper mocked his opponent, declaring him unworthy of his time. With one final slash, the match ended. The battered fighter collapsed into the blood-stained floor. The victor stood confidently. The round was over. Team 13 had won without resistance. Rock Portel unleashed a devastating slash, striking down his opponent without hesitation. Blood splattered across the arena floor as the crowd watched in stunned silence. The beast, like warrior, advanced through each match with overwhelming force, earning victory after victory. His aggressive dominance crushed every challenger placed before him. Spectators could hardly speak as another fighter fell. Rock Portel claimed his second win, leaving behind broken bodies and a growing atmosphere of dread. Yulia observed the battles with growing concern. The matches had devolved from competition into merciless executions, with Rock Portel at the center of it all. From the shadows, monstrous creatures stirred, summoned by the sheer bloodlust unfolding. The trials were escalating far beyond what anyone expected. Despite the chaos, the overseers calmly declared Rock Portel the winner once more. His unmatched brutality showed no signs of slowing, cementing his role as the trial's most dangerous contender. With another opponent defeated, Rock Portel raised his bloodied weapon high. He had now conquered 4 events in a row, each more violent than the last. One student shouted in frustration, blaming his teammate for not following the surrender plan. Panic gripped him as Rock's cruelty became too real to ignore. Another student revealed the truth: those defeated weren't allowed the chance to surrender. Rock's presence alone immobilized them, making escape impossible from the start. X calmly explained that Rock's overwhelming aura incapacitated others before a match could even begin. Victims were frozen by fear and taken out instantly. Frustration boiled over as one teammate demanded a solution. He questioned the point of their formation and the logic behind going last if no protection came from it. His accusations pushed deeper. He reminded X of the trust placed in him, demanding clarity about the leader's role in this chaos. Yet the answer remained unclear. X responded coldly, stating he never promised to help. The formation had never been meant to guarantee safety, only survival for the capable. Without hesitation, X launched into battle. In a swift counterattack, he overpowered Rock Portel, delivering a clean blow that ended the fight in seconds. Shock rippled through the spectators. Even the confident observers, including Nariel and the Noble, were stunned. The beast had finally been stopped, and not by mercy but by force. X began explaining the matching system, revealing that team pairings depended on the leader's shadow color, which reflected their combat power. Stronger leaders meant tougher opponents. The red-haired student listened in disbelief as X clarified that his own powerful shadow had drawn the attention of monsters like Rock Portel, raising the team's risk level significantly. According to X, had they joined a more balanced team, they would have faced reasonable opposition. Instead, they were placed against a bloodthirsty opponent due to X's overwhelming presence. Without remorse, X admitted that joining his team was the very reason for their brutal losses. His power had made them a target for merciless matchups. Stunned, the red-haired student realized X had known all along. His earlier frustrations turned to fear as the truth sank in deeper. Despite the admission, X remained calm and emotionless. He confirmed everything and warned the student that because of this path, hell awaited him next. The red-haired student stepped forward into the arena, his turn finally arriving. His feet barely touched the ritual circle before the command to start rang out. Suddenly, Rock Portel emerged with an enormous summoned beast behind him. Its monstrous form loomed, eyes glowing with bloodlust as the arena shifted into chaos again. Panicked, the student attempted to surrender before Rock could strike. However, Rock activated a binding skill that locked the student in place, ensuring there was no escape. Rock taunted his prey, dragging out the moment. His mocking tone cut through the air, confirming he wanted to repeat the previous match's outcome. As the red-haired student trembled, Rock forced him to summon his avatar, pushing him into despair. Resistance crumbled under the pressure of fear and control. What followed was brutal and swift. A red light consumed the arena as the avatar emerged, but the summoning ended with the student's blood staining the ground. The student collapsed, his body broken. Rock Portel stood above him, now the winner of his 9th consecutive match, further cementing his uncontested dominance. From the stands, spectators counted the losses. Team 51 had only one fighter left, and all eyes turned to the final participant X, whose aura towered over the battlefield. Whispers filled the air. Some questioned whether this match would be different, but others, already aware of X's strength, confidently stated it would not. The outcome was already decided. Among the audience, someone explained how devouring avatars granted rapid power far beyond normal leveling. Rock Portel had consumed 9 already in this round, making him nearly unstoppable. With such an advantage, No remaining fighter was considered capable of challenging him directly. His aura and summoned beast loomed large over the entire arena. Spectators began placing bets. One wagered a hefty amount on Rock Portel's victory, but another, bold and confident, chose to back the masked warrior instead. More people followed, placing their coins on the masked man. Despite the bloodbath so far, his calm presence inspired unexpected confidence. Doubt lingered among some, but others remained firm. They believed the silent man had something unshakable, something no one else possessed in this trial. X finally entered the field. Walking forward slowly, his opponent smirked, believing the strongest prey had finally arrived for him to devour. The match began instantly. Rock activated his binding skill again, attempting to take control of X's body and repeat his prior domination. But this time, something interfered. An alert appeared, notifying both sides that a duel had triggered due to a unique item in play, one that countered blood-based magic. Rock, puzzled and slightly shaken, realized he was caught in a blood-control duel. The tide of control had unexpectedly shifted against him. The result came swiftly. Rock lost the duel, and the system forced him into a submission state, unable to resist. X revealed that he had taken the item, a ring capable of countering such magic, from someone named Liliane. The decision had changed the entire outcome. With a single command, X ordered Rock to kneel. Overpowered and stunned, the bloodthirsty warrior fell to his knees, defeated without a single strike exchanged. A priest-like man flinched in fear as a fierce warrior, bare-chested and wearing prayer beads, entered the arena. The tension in the hall was sharp, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken expectations. At the center, a refined man in a cloak sat calmly. He gestured with faint disinterest as the battle arrangement commenced, surrounded by officials and watchers. He remained unfazed by the upcoming violence. A brutal slash rang out across the floor as a warrior collapsed, blood splattering beneath him. His opponent, a white-haired beast-like fighter named Sephiroth, stood above him. The first match had ended in a swift kill. The defeated warrior's partner, Manhwa, snarled in rage. Her bloodshot eyes locked on Sephiroth, burning with revenge. Her fury boiled over as she screamed his name. With a command, she summoned Ocelot, a monstrous red creature. The beast emerged snarling, teeth bared, responding instantly to her demand to tear Sephiroth apart. Ocelot lunged forward, dripping saliva and blood, its eyes wild. Rinoa shouted from behind, fueling the creature's frenzy. She charged alongside it, ready to strike with all her strength. Sephiroth's powers surged. A divine system marked his Sephiroth, unlocked, as he activated Ishim's sacred flame. He triggered a skill called Ignition Boost. In a flash of red and white flame, his figure vanished from sight. The speed was impossible to follow by the naked eye. Sephiroth reappeared in front of Ocelot, slicing through the monster's thick skin in a single clean stroke. Ritoa screamed as blood gushed from her shoulder. She tried to move but stumbled, pain overtaking her senses. The match concluded with her collapse. The referee announced the end of the 10th match. Blood covered the arena floor. Sephiroth stood calmly over the fallen body. From the stands, spectators watched in stunned silence. One man acknowledged Sephiroth's strength, and another conceded a wager. 500 purple coins were lost to the fight's outcome. Sephiroth stared at Rena's corpse, thinking about the effort he spent killing her just to activate spiritual harvest. But too many eyes were watching. He decided to wait. A new challenger entered. A heavy man with a double-bladed axe stepped forward confidently, prepared to battle. Sephiroth didn't move, his body still glowing faintly. The opponent grinned, impressed by Sephiroth's calm. He admitted interest in facing him directly. Sephiroth offered no response but readied his stance as the match officially began. As the new match began, a large man introduced himself as Edgar Ball before being violently struck mid-sentence. His speech ended with a groan of pain as Sephiroth's sudden blow hit its mark. In retaliation, Edgar summoned his avatar, a massive avian creature known as Simurgh, the giant bird. Blue feathers erupted outward as the summons screeched above the battlefield. Simurgh launched at Sephiroth, but the white-haired warrior gripped the beast's beak with visible effort. He muttered in annoyance, clearly unfazed by the aerial threat. Sephiroth retaliated swiftly, exploiting Simurgh's exposed head. His fist connected against its skull, forcing the summoned creature to recoil and screech in pain. Edgar shouted in desperation, commanding the beast to fight back, but Sephiroth advanced. The man lunged toward him, attempting a direct strike with all his strength. Despite Edgar's aggression, Sephiroth countered cleanly. A brutal hit smashed into Edgar's face, cracking bone and sending blood flying from his mouth. The final blow came with a heavy strike to Edgar's side, crushing through his ribs. The impact ruptured internal organs, ending the fight in seconds. His broken body collapsed onto the floor, blood pooling around him. The 11th match concluded with a clear outcome. declared from the judge's table. Observers began to murmur. One official noticed a disturbing pattern. Sephiroth was killing opponents in the exact same way his fallen teammates had died. A young man in the stands questioned whether Sephiroth sought revenge. His companion dismissed the idea, claiming Sephiroth wasn't the type to act out of emotion. The woman elaborated this wasn't about sentiment. Sephiroth was simply efficient and goal-focused. His precise movements showed nothing but calculated execution. From the upper seats, a noble-looking girl confirmed that everything was going according to plan. Sephiroth was merely following the quest she had assigned. The next challenger stepped forward, a young woman in a suit. As the match was called to begin, she raised her hands, attempting to surrender before the first blow. Her plea was ignored. Sephiroth's sword ignited with red light. In a flash, he closed the distance and activated a skill labeled 1/execution. With a second activation, triple split, he severed her limbs in one motion. Her scream echoed through the arena. As her body hit the ground, another match ended without hesitation. Blood sprayed from the mouth of the defeated opponent as the match was declared over. His body crumpled without resistance, marking another quick elimination. A group of frightened contestants hesitated, but one was pushed forward as the next challenger. Their fear was obvious, some unable to watch the carnage. Sephiroth charged forward. In the fourth match, he delivered a precise strike to the neck, severing the central nervous system, ending the fight instantly. Another stepped in only to be cleaved in half across the torso. The fifth match concluded with the victim's upper body separated from the lower. In the sixth, the target was decapitated in a clean vertical motion. The seventh followed immediately, pierced straight through the chest with lethal force. A spectator observed in disbelief. He had thought the first team member was extreme, but this new fighter was far more dangerous. Sephiroth struck again, cutting down the next man without pause. X stood alone in the arena, his palm glowing with condensed flame energy. The order to ignite came without hesitation, and his hand responded, radiating intense heat. The enemy barely reacted before the massive fireball erupted forward, engulfing the entire field in a torrent of blazing light. Screams echoed as the attack detonated on impact, shaking the arena with its destructive force. With the 19th match concluded, X emerged victorious. His figure stood in the aftermath of the explosion, flames dancing around his body. Team 51 had secured the final victory, their dominance now indisputable. Observers seated above watched in disbelief. One among them questioned the reliability of the statistics. They had expected a 75% survival rate. Yet 19 participants had fallen instantly in the opening round. At the center of the bloodstained battlefield, Chugonyulk stood silently, eyes locked on the carnage. Anger and disbelief filled him as he muttered about Babel's unforgiving trial system. The watching hunters grew increasingly uneasy. The match had struck fear into even the boldest. A demon noble remarked on Gonyulk's prowess, linking his potential to recognition from Azazel himself. From her elevated seat, a blonde girl named Nariel was asked for her thoughts. She remained silent, eyes focused on the battlefield, her expression unreadable. The demonstration had officially concluded. What was once a focused display now shifted into chaos. New participants began to rise. Among them, a red-haired student clenched his fists as their group was called forward. As the sun shone over the dome, one of the participants raised his hands before a fight could start. He chose surrender without resistance, his voice shaking. Another soon followed. Collapsing to the ground in submission, the official called the match as finished, the winner having not made a single move. A third contestant, trembling, also gave up. The overwhelming atmosphere had crushed their will to fight before any weapon clashed. Backstage, one teammate snapped at the others. He warned against giving up too soon, and questioned who would be responsible if their team landed in the loser bracket. Nearby, others observed the decline in morale. The group once energized had lost its spirit. Memories of X's merciless attack haunted everyone. Those who witnessed it carried the scars in silence. Since that first match, fear and exhaustion had deeply infected their resolve. Two students from the spectator area hastily covered a peer's mouth after he made a reckless comment. Panic showed in their expressions. Knowing they were surrounded by stronger forces, whispering wrong words now could be fatal. Their eyes drifted toward X, the bloodied warrior seated nearby. His intimidating presence alone silenced any lingering defiance. Even after victory, his aura still suffocated the air around him. Relieved that X hadn't noticed, the boys relaxed slightly. They assumed their careless whisper went unheard, but they remained unaware that his ears had caught everything. The next round commenced. A female official called the first fighters of the match. Among them stood Yulia, poised and calm, her energy swirling with crimson light. Before combat began, Yulia approached her opponent and offered a surprising proposal. Both teams could avoid bloodshed entirely. She suggested alternating surrender as a strategy for survival. Her male opponent paused, puzzled by the offer. He hadn't expected diplomacy. Yulia stood firm, ready to cooperate if the other side was willing to meet her halfway. The red-haired boy dismissed the idea, claiming the leaders would eventually be forced to fight, anyway. He refused to trust someone suggesting peace, mid-trial however. Yulia's team backed her with confidence. One member affirmed her plan's logic, while another calmly introduced Yulia as their leader, urging the others to place faith in her decision. With quiet authority, Yulia restated her stance. Her words carried weight, not from force, but conviction. Even skeptics like the red-haired student found themselves reconsidering. As the final match of the stage began, tension lingered. A blonde fighter watched Yulia with concern, questioning the merit of the peaceful method. Yulia responded with clarity. If there was even a slim chance to preserve lives, then it was worth attempting. Her belief wasn't rooted in naivety, but in resolve. Both stepped onto the field, with firm voices. They declared their surrender at the same time. The message was clear. They would not kill just to survive. The judge declared a draw, though neither side would gain rewards. Both were allowed to advance to the next stage. Cheers erupted among Yulia's teammates. Relief flooded their faces. Yulia's decision had spared them from unnecessary death. Her leadership now stood unchallenged, proven through both courage and wisdom. The peaceful tactic quickly spread. Fighters from other teams began surrendering in sequence, echoing the method pioneered by Yulia. Her influence had shifted the flow of the entire trial. The battle arena's atmosphere had clearly changed. Observers noted how the majority now leaned toward the peaceful draw strategy Yulia initiated. It marked a dramatic shift from the blood-soaked start. Despite the risk of both teams falling into the loser's bracket, Yulia never hesitated. Her decision wasn't impulsive. It was a gamble made with full awareness of the consequences. The demon noble questioned whether Nariel had quietly influenced the outcome. She denied any interference. Yulia had acted entirely on her own judgment, driven by belief in a peaceful path. Among her team, Yulia was praised for her ability to inspire both allies and rivals alike. Her presence alone had been a stabilizing force throughout the chaos. Nariel declared the move deserving of a reward. As her words echoed across the stadium, a radiant light descended, granting Yulia the unique title Second Floor Rescuer. Spectators gasped at the recognition. It wasn't just a symbolic title, it was acknowledgement from the system itself. Even divine powers had validated Yulia's unprecedented leadership. Applause and cheers followed as Yulia's allies congratulated her. She thanked everyone with sincerity, but kept her composure as she stepped away from the group. From a distance, Nariel watched her closely. She appeared amused and pleased, noting that the reward had indeed gone to good use and hadn't been wasted on the wrong person. Still, uncertainty lingered. Nariel couldn't help but question why Azazel, known for ruthless standards, would endorse someone like Yulia. Elsewhere, Yulia approached the silent warrior known as X. She recognized him instantly and brought up his ruthless actions from the earlier trials on the first floor. Her voice held no fear as she criticized his methods. She firmly stated that his way of solving problems through brutality was flawed. No matter how effective it seemed, X did not reply. His glowing eye narrowed, but no words came. For once, even the warrior who silenced dozens had nothing to say in return. As Yulia walked away, the crowd behind her erupted into applause once again. Her stance had become the new standard, and others now followed it willingly. To everyone's surprise, even X joined in. Slowly clapping from his seat, though no words were exchanged, his gesture carried quiet acknowledgement of her impact. Yulia stood tall, expression calm. The girl once underestimated, now stood at the center of change, and as more eyes turned toward her, the future of the trials began to shift. Inside the towering arena of Babel's second floor, the final battle concluded under the pale evening light. The last duel ended as one participant knelt in exhaustion, formally surrendering. The crowd watched in silence as the referee declared the match over. Weeks of brutal combat and trials came to a close, as the results of the floor's challenges were finalized. Seated above the rest, an overseer confirmed the outcome. Out of 1,000 contenders, only a few earned the right to ascend to the third floor of Babel, marking a decisive cutoff in the competition. Cheers erupted as the tally was announced. 794 participants qualified. The result exceeded all expectations, sparking surprise and disbelief among instructors and students alike. While one girl celebrated by leaping from a ledge in excitement, others attributed the success to a specific individual, a strategist named Yulia. Her name echoed through the chamber as applause broke out. Students gathered around her, grateful and excited, hailing her as the key to their survival and victory. Order was restored as a stern instructor stepped forward to give an official announcement. During this short window, students were offered an opportunity to challenge the hidden dungeon located on the second floor, a perilous optional trial. The dungeon, filled with bosses in 4 cardinal directions, demanded caution. Once entered, escape was impossible until the exit was located, making it a test of both strength and strategy. A voice called out to rally the crowd, inviting anyone brave enough to challenge the bonus dungeon. Excitement stirred again as the speaker named Yulia as the lead figure for this new mission. Several students responded eagerly, stepping forward to join her. Confidence surged among them. Yulia's presence gave them hope and assurance. More voices joined in, and soon, a large number of volunteers formed. The idea of facing danger alongside someone trusted sparked widespread enthusiasm. One girl reminded Yulia of her original desire to be a positive influence. Now was the moment to act on that promise and lead by example. As Yulia paused in thought, the crowd grew. Over 100 students rallied under her leadership, ready to take on the hidden dungeon together. Observing from afar, 2 instructors noted her rising potential. Not only had she shown tactical brilliance, but she had also awakened a natural talent for leadership. As the students prepared for the next step, Instructor Azazel requested the attention of his top-ranked hero. He announced that a new matter required settling an unresolved quest still in play. Yulia, unaware of what lay ahead, looked on as a masked figure descended to the arena. His presence carried weight, and his voice confirmed his intent. The quest must with authority. The masked man introduced an additional mission titled Exemplar, a challenge designed to test the true influence of actions on others' survival during the prior trials. The quest trial was revealed. Hunter Ganhyuk had initiated a vicious display during the early match to instill fear among observers. His brutality had shocked the others, leaving a lasting impression. This fear, ironically, raised alertness and helped more survive later rounds. A device known as the Devil's Causality Calculator would evaluate whether a participant's actions contributed over 60% to improved outcomes. Only then would the quest succeed. The judgment was swift. Yulia's strategic brilliance had saved more lives than the violent display. Ganhyuk's attempt at credit was rejected. Narya, another instructor, confirmed that Yulia's tactics led to the draw strategy, the very method that allowed mass advancement. Although some argued the device might not be needed, the terms required a formal calculation. Azazel agreed to proceed with the measurement without objection. The Devil's Machine activated, its maw flashing a digital signal to begin. The audience held their breath in anticipation. It began analyzing the earliest event's influence on the final survival rate. Yulia and the masked examiner watched closely. The result shocked the crowd. The number 69% appeared, confirming the effect exceeded the requirement. Azazel's face twisted in silent frustration. Recognition returned to Yulia. She had devised the draw tactic by identifying how simultaneous surrender would count both teams as winners. Though her impact was undeniable, the system's integrity was questioned. The strategy was clever but had potential flaws, as explained. The tactic only worked if both sides surrendered at the same time. A betrayal from one participant would void the draw and turn the outcome into defeat for the trusting side. The system clarified that if one side betrayed during a draw agreement, the non-surrendering side would gain the full victory reward, while the other would lose everything. Nariel pointed out the oddity: not one betrayal had occurred, even though the system allowed it. This fact stood out as unnatural given the high stakes. She concluded that the brutal first event had instilled fear in the participants. That initial violence shifted the atmosphere, making betrayal psychologically difficult to commit. Yulia's actions were praised as a moral example, guiding others through cooperative success. Her leadership influenced many to follow a peaceful route. However, the examiner known as X served as a warning. His ruthless behavior became a symbol of what to avoid, balancing fear and inspiration. Azazel admitted the 69% contribution was acceptable, even if it came through fear. He defended it as a reflection of human nature responding better to threats. As a result of the quest's success, a special reward was granted: the bonus dungeon key. This opened access to a dangerous and hidden challenge. Nariel questioned the choice, concerned about the masked man's decision to enter the bonus dungeon alone, despite heavy risks and past losses. He remained unfazed, stating his intention to face it solo. His aim was simple: to claim every reward inside for himself without sharing.
Soma lay injured on the ground, barely conscious, as his teammate urgently rushed to check on him. Struggling to his feet, Soma steadied himself, forcing back the pain. His expression hardened as he realized the threat was far from over, and retreat wasn't an option. In response, Soma summoned the powerful avatar known as Vajra Guardian, with a surge of radiant energy. Holding his weapon high, Soma invoked Vajra Hum, a deadly technique fused with thunderous might. The battlefield shook as lightning burst forth, engulfing the boss monster Rex Melodon. The creature roared in agony. The powerful blow dropped the monster instantly. Its massive body collapsed with a final tremor. As quiet returned, a teammate offered heartfelt thanks. Soma, still bruised but calm, downplayed his actions. He fell into thought briefly, realizing just how narrowly they had survived. The outcome might have been different without the specialized equipment they had received. Reflecting on the battle, he acknowledged the critical role of Ganyok's gear. One member retrieved a glowing item floating stone fragment, one according to its description. Knowing this, they realized 5 more fragments were still needed. The path forward remained long and filled with similar dangers. They discussed their concerns, especially the time it took to defeat just one boss. Even more troubling than combat, however, was the growing issue of food scarcity. The environment on the current floor was unforgiving. No edible plants or wildlife could be found. Unlike the first floor's forest that had been rich with supplies, resources were dwindling fast. Despite minor healing spells, the group's mana reserves were nearly drained, and exhaustion had set in. Soma closed his eyes and began planning. It was clear they couldn't continue without strategy. They would need a new approach to survive the challenges ahead. While the group discussed their limited supplies, a sudden shift in the atmosphere caught everyone's attention. Reacting immediately, the group tensed. A mysterious figure floated down from the forest canopy, his appearance calm but deliberate. Introducing himself as Jian, he claimed to be a messenger from the Southern Alliance, arriving with information and a mission. Jian delivered urgent news. The team was nearing the 7th day, which would trigger movement from the island's central boss monster on the 3rd floor. According to reports, Azazel, presumably a powerful entity, would begin actively hunting on that day. He warned that the boss would likely attack hunters directly, emphasizing the need for preparation before attempting further progress. Tension rose as frustration surfaced among the group. They were short on food and mana, with too many problems to manage at once. Despite the chaos, Jian remained confident. He reminded them that they were united under the strongest alliance on the island. He offered help, noting their weaknesses but also recognizing their strength. He was clearly building towards something bigger. Jian handed Soma a rare item. At first confused, Soma realized it was a healing flower, a precious recovery item. Staring in disbelief, he confirmed the flower's identity. It had the power to restore wounds and mana, exactly what they needed. A new figure, Yongxi, appeared to validate its power. She confirmed it was her flower, known for its exceptional healing properties. With a subtle grin, Jian revealed his group could produce such recovery items in bulk. Their supply was seemingly endless. Curious but cautious, Soma asked what the messenger wanted in return. Jian didn't hesitate to respond. He proposed an alliance. If they joined the Southern Alliance, their food and mana issues would be resolved completely. Soma stepped forward, declaring that they would hunt the hidden boss Tyranno together. The following day, the decision hung in the air, serious and final. Jian, still confident, asked Soma for his answer, smiling faintly as tension rose among the group. Without saying a word, Soma looked down, offering no clear reply. Jian, unfazed, called the silence a shame and began turning away. As Jian and his group walked off, Soma warned not to regret it later. The group watched their backs carefully. The red-haired girl questioned the decision. Soma explained, they lacked enough intel to make a secure alliance just yet. Suddenly, a huge explosion lit up the sky in the distance. Everyone turned to face it. In this dangerous world, even trust had to be measured. The blast's fiery glow revealed ruins and smoke. Among the wreckage, survivors fled desperately from a burning battlefield, panting and disoriented. Jian was among them, betrayed and abandoned by his own leader. His anger boiled to the surface. He cursed the alliance leader who ran away mid-battle, vowing never to forgive the betrayal that cost so many lives. A monstrous creature burst from the flames. The team stared in disbelief as Tyranno emerged in full force. In just moments, over 200 fighters had been annihilated. The beast's power was beyond expectations. As fear settled in, the group spotted another force arriving. Reinforcements were on the move, and hope sparked once more. A large party approached from the cliffs. The group wondered aloud if it was another alliance entering the fray. As figures lined the ridge, someone flying with golden wings appeared in the sky, catching everyone's attention. The name Golden Wings triggered a memory. One member recalled hearing rumors that might now prove true. A rumor about a powerful figure with golden wings surfaced among the group. Some believed it to be an angel's proxy, on the third floor. Suddenly, a radiant figure appeared midair, surrounded by energy. The group recognized him, Ganyuk, readying to act. Despite resistance from another, Ganyuk asserted dominance. The decision was already made.
As the sun dipped behind the mountain range, its fading light cast an orange glow over the dense forest below. Beneath the canopy, a silver-haired man lay sprawled on the ground, his breath ragged and shallow. With trembling arms, he forced himself upright and leaned against a tree. The thought of fighting back seemed laughable. Now survival alone demanded everything he had. Grimacing, he recalled the fire, breathing beast that nearly incinerated them. Rage surfaced as he muttered about the comrade who had abandoned them mid-battle. A sudden tremor snapped his attention forward. The earth shook, and glowing cracks in the distance burst open with fiery intensity. From the flames, a hulking red creature emerged. Men in black suits scrambled to flee, screams echoing as the dinosaur charged with terrifying force. Frozen in disbelief, the silver-haired man could only watch as the monster's roar shook the forest. Hopelessness crept in. How could anyone defeat such a beast? A flash of blue light descended from the sky. Wings of light unfurled behind a dark-haired warrior, gripping a radiant spear, descending like a force of nature. With no hesitation, the warrior plunged downward, driving the glowing weapon into the monster's open jaw, emitting a thunderous crack that stunned all nearby. From a distance, others observed silently, disbelief etched on their faces. The air grew tense as the beast reeled from the blow. Wounded and enraged, the red monster thrashed violently. It let out a pained scream before turning tail, barreling away in desperation. But the winged warrior chased, blocking its retreat. His energy surged, and his eyes burned with resolve. This fight wasn't over yet. Launching forward, the warrior closed the gap in a blink, slashing at the creature with precision and fury, unwilling to let it escape. The monster swung its claws wildly, trying to counter. The warrior evaded, wings slicing through the air, landing another fierce blow. At last, a fiery explosion erupted as the beast cried out one final time. Its figure swallowed by the red sky, a storm of vengeance unleashed. The red-scaled beast roared violently, staggering under pressure as dozens of attackers surged around it. Cries erupted. Mr. Ganyuk was taking the brunt of the assault alone. Without hesitation, the support team stepped forward. Swords were drawn, skills prepared, and strategies relayed. A unified command rang out across the group. With synchronized effort, the mages began altering the terrain. Chains of light erupted from the hands of multiple casters, ensnaring the beast's limbs. The monster struggled, its roars muffled by the tightening magical bonds restraining it. The squad spread out, keeping tension on the chains. Everyone gave their all to lock the creature down while their strongest fighter recovered from earlier blows. Relief briefly flickered in the leader's eyes. They had successfully immobilized the beast. But that fleeting moment ended when a shockwave struck. Though restrained, the dinosaur bellowed again and began tearing at its shackles. The formation faltered. From the tree line, a powerful man watched the chaos unfold. Rage filled his chest as he saw comrades fall, their strength meaningless against the creature. Closing his eyes, he made a solemn vow. The lives being lost would not be in vain. This failure weighed on him. Amid the tension, a winged warrior prepared for another strike. Curious onlookers watched as he formed energy blades and radiated calm despite the mayhem. He gave a slight smirk, muttering something to himself, then pointed toward the field, where the beast raged. Suddenly, a blast shook the land as the monster released another fiery breath. Flames surged outward, forcing nearby fighters to retreat in panic and confusion. From the shadows, a new warrior stepped forth. His transformation began as his body swelled, and golden fur erupted across his limbs. A beast form awakened. Charging headlong, he sank his fangs into the monster's shoulder. The clash of claw and scale echoed through the valley as another beast joined the fight. With a ferocious roar, the newly formed beast ripped into the creature's flesh, followed by a second transformed ally. Spectators watched in awe as the beast was momentarily forced back. The tide had shifted, if only briefly. Excitement spread through the ranks, but the monk among them stayed composed. He warned the others that the battle wasn't over yet. The monster still had strength left. Just as predicted, the red creature lashed out again, counterattacking with renewed violence. One of the transformed warriors was thrown back with a vicious blow. The second beast warrior stepped in but was quickly overpowered. Everyone watching clenched their fists as the battle turned savage once again. Cries of pain echoed across the battlefield. The red monster rampaged with fury, striking wildly and forcing both transformed fighters into retreat. Its eyes narrowed as it surveyed the scattered resistance. Despite their bravery, the opposition began to falter under the pressure of its wrath. The monster turned to escape down a forested path, but above, the winged man tracked its every step, floating silently with unwavering focus. He muttered to himself, disappointed that the beast hadn't continued rampaging longer. Still, he calmly summoned a new wave of energy. Calling out to his comrade, Nathaniel, he prepared for the next step. The red beast, resisting, roared that it didn't want to comply. The winged man launched forward, declaring that the monster had no choice. Whether it wanted to or not, it would move according to plan. He darted around the beast, weaving in and out of its attacks. The creature roared in protest, but its strength was dwindling. Pausing mid-air, he mocked the monster. His calm expression contrasted the red beast's growing unease. It began to hesitate. A final strike pushed the monster back. It snarled, then turned and retreated. The winged warrior casually watched it flee. Cheers broke out below, as soldiers realized the Tyranno was returning to the crater. One warrior questioned why it was let go. Without answering, the monk smiled. The winged man responded to a subordinate's report. Everything had been prepared just as he'd planned. The winged man hovered above the crater, issuing a clear command to begin the operation. A subordinate on the ground acknowledged without hesitation. Hovering mid-air, he addressed all the hunters below. His voice carried across the field as the fiery eruption behind him painted the sky red. He revealed that every hunter present on the uninhabited island had unknowingly walked into a trap. A fiery explosion cracked the landscape, and the crowd below stood frozen as they absorbed the truth. They had all been deceived. In the shadows of a cave, a group of hunters realized that even collecting all levitation stone fragments wouldn't save them. The airship could only carry 3 people. Shock spread rapidly. Confusion followed as the reality sank in. Only a handful could escape the island alive. Despite the grim news, the winged man declared there was still hope. He hinted at a solution, offering a sliver of light in the growing despair deep underground. In a quiet cavern filled with glowing flowers, a lone girl remained imprisoned. As the echoes of battle faded above, she whispered a single word, her eyes filled with emotion. She had been waiting for someone, her brother. A winged young man floats before a raging volcano, explaining that even collecting all 6 levitation stone fragments will not guarantee salvation. He reveals that the completed airship built from the levitation stone can carry only 3 people. The announcement spreads shock through the gathered group near the forest. Among them, a muscular man wearing large prayer beads lowers his head, grasping the cruel limit. Tension tightens as the reality of sacrifice settles in. Hovering calmly, the winged figure assures them there is another method. His steady expression contrasts with the burning mountain behind him. The muscular man closes his eyes in thought, focusing as if preparing for a dangerous task. Dust and ash drift across the darkened sky. The winged man declares they must take the levitation stone from the Tyranno's body. The plan shifts their fate from waiting to confrontation. Stepping forward, the muscular man leads as others follow, realizing that the Tyranno's stone could launch an airship for thousands. Fear begins to turn into purpose. A faint light arcs near the volcano, as he imagines everyone reaching the 4th floor together. Hope briefly pierces the smoky horizon. The winged figure states that survival does not require killing one another. Cooperation becomes the foundation of his proposal. With wings spread, he announces that strength is not necessary to join him. His stance projects control over the chaos. He calls everyone to gather at the northern camp, offering unity instead of division. The message carries across the scorched land, facing them again. He promises they can escape alive together. Determination fills his gaze. Rising higher, he declares they will never yield to devils. The crowd responds with renewed resolve. A faint smile appears as he senses their belief returning. Confidence replaces despair. Watching from above, he realizes the true battle is about to begin. The volcano continues to burn in the distance. The muscular man with prayer beads lowers his gaze, noting that the winged leader now carries a mountain of expectations. A faint smirk forms on the winged man's face as he hints that the truth will reveal itself in time. Flames from the distant volcano reflect in his eyes. Far below the burning mountain, a small glowing light flickers in the smoky sky while several figures stand watching from a ridge. The eruption continues to rumble over the forest. The title of the regression appears as the muscular man closes his eyes, steadying his thoughts. His expression suggests experience beyond a single lifetime. A caption marks the 12th day as a broken ship rests along a red shoreline. Smoke rises in the distance, showing the land remains unstable. Inside the camp, plant-type hunters begin cultivating crops while a fire burns behind them. Order slowly replaces chaos. From a balcony, the winged strategist surveys the fields and murmurs approval. Survivors move below, beginning structured work. He calmly intimidates a restrained girl, using subtle power testing loyalty, rather than harming her. Defiance still shines in her eyes. The muscular man reports his return and confirms 2 killers were eliminated. Their enemies erase traces so thoroughly that even scouts fail to track them. They step outside to discuss the threat while overlooking the fields. The strategist decides to wait rather than act rashly. Attention shifts toward farming operations and the levitation stone's completion. If rivals finish first, their entire strategy will collapse. Silence passes between them as the winged man adjusts his pipe, deep in calculation. The tension signals hidden complications. He asks whether the effect has faded, sensing something unusual. Suspicion sharpens his focus. Both men walk through the doorway as evening light fades behind them. A private discussion is required. Entering a secured interior space, they prepare to address the next stage of their plan. The real conflict is quietly approaching. A wide blue monitor glows inside a sealed laboratory as 2 enormous glass tanks filled with violet fluid dominate the room. Under the cold ceiling lights, the strategist calmly raises the question of whether everyone is truly required to defeat the Tyranno. Across from him, the muscular hunter listens in silence as the proposal narrows to just the 2 of them. Doubt lingers in his gaze, though he does not immediately object. The strategist studies his pipe and explains that the Tyranno was created to endure an assault from at least 50 people. The empty chamber amplifies the scale of that challenge. He then asks whether assembling such numbers is realistic, shifting the burden of practicality onto his companion. Shadows stretch across the polished floor. Memories surface in the hunter's mind of the strategist overwhelming the Tyranno alone in a past confrontation. Suspicion grows quietly. The strategist dismisses unnecessary speculation and advises focusing on the current plan. His expression remains controlled. Preparing to leave, the hunter warns that certain substances weaken the body. Concern hides beneath his firm tone. Alone in the corridor, the strategist calmly clarifies that what he uses is not opium, though its ingredients are similar. Night begins to settle outside. Under a bright moon, a red-haired man runs through the forest, breathing hard as branches whip past him. Fear drives his pace. He suddenly halts upon facing a massive white wolf blocking his path. Blood stains the ground around them. The beast stands over fallen bodies while a wounded survivor looks on in shock. Silence fills the clearing. The red-haired man realizes he has run into something far worse than expected. Panic tightens his face. The wolf remains motionless, asserting dominance without hesitation. The forest air feels heavy with danger. Amid the aftermath, a trembling survivor whispers gratitude toward the towering beast. The night closes in around the scene. In the blood-soaked forest clearing, a towering white wolf in a suit stands before a trembling survivor who believed death was certain. A sharp motion cuts through the night as the wolf finishes the last threat without hesitation. The survivor's scream echoes briefly before fading into the trees. Silence returns as the wolf lowers his weapon, staring down at the fallen bodies. Moonlight glints off the blood pooling at his feet. A horned girl with pink hair steps forward, announcing the completion of 100 kills on the 3rd floor. Her tone carries approval, rather than horror. She presents a glowing lantern as a reward, its blue light swirling with contained energy. The wolf watches calmly, unmoved by her charm. Pressing close to him, she praises the generosity of the massacre quest rewards. He remains rigid, focused only on results. Curiosity replaces playfulness as she questions a lava dinosaur's guardian talisman. The wolf listens without visible interest. With a confident smile, she displays a fiery charm that reduces damage, calling it her special gift. The talisman radiates heat in her fingers. He dismisses the offer and demands the greater quest instead, unwilling to divide his focus. The forest air tightens with tension. She warns that both major quests cannot be taken at once. Despite the abundant rewards already granted, frustration flickers across her face. Leaning closer, she proposes a contract with a demon, promising incomparable benefits. Her red eyes gleam with temptation. The wolf's expression hardens as he recognizes the proposal as a traitor's bargain after humanity's fall. The night feels colder. Cornered, she hastily offers him the title of Celestial Knight instead. Unease shows in her widened eyes. He counters with knowledge of a hidden rank, exposing secrets she did not expect him to know. Shock silences her. Lifting his head beneath the moon, the wolf rejects manipulation and names the throne she truly seeks, a Grand Duke of the Demon Realm. The confrontation shifts entirely in his favor. The white wolf-headed man stands close to the horned girl and states that he will accept a contract only if she grants the quest he truly wants. Leaning toward her ear, he quietly reveals the specific condition, forcing her into silence. The proximity shifts the balance of power in his favor. Startled by what she hears, the girl recoils slightly, realizing the demand is far beyond ordinary requests. On the blood-stained ground nearby, fallen bodies reflect the cost of earlier battles as he adds another requirement involving the escaped devil contractor's wings. Facing him directly, the girl studies his expression and understands he knows more than he should about hidden contracts. Beneath the moonlight, the wolf-headed man waits calmly for her decision, confident that the choice now rests entirely in her hands. A massive volcano erupts violently, sending thick black smoke and blazing lava high into the sky, while the mountain trembles under the force of the explosion. Below the burning slope, several uniformed men climb across cracked, molten ground, pushing themselves upward despite the heat and falling debris. From the cliff's edge, glowing fragments and strange purple orbs drop into the lava, disappearing without sound as the team watches the unstable terrain shift beneath them. Perched on jagged rocks, the group looks down into the smoky crater, confused by the unnatural silence. After throwing an object into the flames, the men retreat across the scorched surface, deciding to report back as ash drifts through the air, and the volcano continues to rumble behind them. High above, a red-haired winged woman in white armor observes their withdrawal, her sharp gaze fixed on the fleeing humans as she silently judges their actions. The volcano roars again, lava bursting upward as if mocking the fragile efforts made moments before. A title, marking the 13th regression appears, followed by a calm sunrise labeled Day 14, signaling the reset of time once more. In front of a swirling blue portal, a black-haired man with white wings activates a golden device at his neck, initiating the second stage of his power. Broken fragments scatter near his polished shoes as he stands over the remains of a shattered mask on reddish ground, facing the glowing horizon. His wings spread wide, while determination replaces hesitation in his expression. He launches into the sky above a school campus at sunset, descending moments later into a quiet courtyard where startled students notice his arrival. Inside the academy grounds, he meets a muscular man adorned with large prayer beads, receiving confirmation that preparations are complete. From a balcony overlooking a crowd, they observe dozens who have finished their class changes, though uncertainty surrounds their true combat value. After brief consideration, the winged man orders that only capable fighters join the battle, while the rest remain at camp, setting the next phase of the plan into motion. Above the academy courtyard, the winged man rises into the sunset sky, leaving a trail of light as the muscular commander watches silently from below. Suddenly, a violent tremor shakes the building, and the commander senses an overwhelming surge of energy approaching from beyond the walls. Without warning, a massive red dragon crashes into the battlefield in the distance, releasing a blazing roar that signals the beginning of a direct assault. Inside, a fractured barrier of ice and flame, students and fighters brace themselves as the defensive vanguard begins to collapse under relentless pressure. The dragon unleashes a concentrated sphere of fire from its jaws, smashing against the cracked shield while the group struggles to maintain formation. Recognizing their attacks have failed, after hours of effort, the commander considers retreat as exhaustion spreads through the ranks. The dragon descends through a storm of fire, its glowing red eye fixed on the defenders, while holy beasts nearby begin losing control. Flames intensify instead of fading, expanding outward in unstable waves that distort the battlefield and overpower elemental resistance. Realizing the creature's strength continues to grow, the commander warns that a direct hit could fatally wound the winged leader. The commander studies the chaos in silence, weighing the situation as burning wind whips across his face. Ahead of him, corrupted beasts and the red dragon roar together, while the winged man stands calmly at the front line, observing the dragon's amplified power. The winged leader notes its growth with measured approval rather than fear. Far from the clash, a white-haired man with dark wings declares that he has abandoned heroism and now embraces destruction without restraint. Seated before a demonic throne in a symbolic vision, he promises a future after humanity's extinction, offering power and survival in exchange for loyalty. Back on a forested cliff, he spreads his wings before a gathering of followers, accepting everything as the flames of chaos continue to rise in the distance. At the edge of cultivated fields beneath a red sunset, a young worker in a straw hat wipes sweat from his face, unaware of the distant smoke rising beyond the hills. Behind him, several figures move quietly through the crops, their presence concealed by the tall leaves and fading light. Without warning, a white-haired man with dark wings descends from the sky surrounded by armed followers, his arrival casting a shadow of violence over the peaceful farmland. Screams erupt as one of the workers is struck down, blood staining the green plants while panic spreads among the unarmed civilians. Standing calmly amid the chaos, the white-haired leader orders continued slaughter, viewing the massacre as a necessary step toward fulfilling a greater pact. Turning toward the burning horizon, he watches the growing flames with cold satisfaction, as his subordinates continue spilling blood behind him. Elsewhere, a massive serpent-like creature crashes to the ground near a group of suited fighters, its enormous body threatening to crush them. The impact sends shockwaves through the area, forcing the hunters to brace themselves as debris and dust explode outward. Moments later, the muscular commander raises a protective barrier, shielding the team and checking that everyone survived the sudden strike. A messenger rushes toward the commander with urgent news delivered from the winged leader stationed elsewhere. The order is clear and immediate. All forces are to withdraw despite the ongoing battle. Further explanation reveals that hostile hunters from the western region have launched an attack on their base, forcing a strategic retreat. As smoke rises in the distance, the implication becomes clear that the winged leader intends to confront the new threat alone. Before the group can fully respond, one of their members collapses to the ground, struck by a sudden and brutal attack. The white-haired antagonist emerges once more, his blade drenched in blood as he stands over the fallen, signaling that the true confrontation has only just begun. As screams echo across the courtyard, the white-haired attacker advances calmly while wounded fighters collapse behind him. Nearby, a purple-haired hunter staggers forward with a blade in hand, his movements unsteady as fragments of memory begin resurfacing in his mind. Moments later, he confronts the white-haired man directly, recognizing him as someone connected to forgotten events. A dark aura gathers behind the purple-haired hunter, as his eyes glow red, signaling that suppressed memories and instincts are returning. Standing a short distance away, the white-haired leader observes the change carefully, calculating how to make use of the unstable power awakening before him. Soon after, news arrives that the great airship has been destroyed, prompting the white-haired man to decide on an organized withdrawal from the area. In the distance, smoke rises above cracked academy walls, showing that the battlefield continues to deteriorate under heavy damage high in the air. The winged commander faces the red dragon once more, hovering steadily despite the creature's burning energy sphere forming in its jaws. With controlled focus, he activates a defensive ability, summoning a powerful shield as he prepares for a direct confrontation. The dragon unleashes an enormous blast of fire downward, the flames expanding rapidly across the battlefield. Instead of retreating, the winged commander accelerates straight toward the attack, maintaining his guard as heat and pressure intensify around him. Charging directly into the blazing core, he commits to overwhelming the dragon head, forcing the decisive clash to begin.